Good evening, everyone. Welcome to episode 48 of FPL BlackBox. I'm Az. I'm joined by a certain Mr. Mark Southerns and a very special guest this week. It is the king of FPL YouTube, the GOAT of video content. It's Mr. Andy Mears, aka Let's Talk FPL, aka Slippers. How are you, Andy?
I'm doing well. Do you even remember why you called me Slippers in the first place? Neither of you do to you.
I think you did a video in your slippers, didn't you?
No, he did a video in his dressing gown, I think. And then I said, "Do you reckon he was wearing slippers?" It's something like that.
Neither of you can remember.
What is it then, Andy? Come on.
You were streaming you two live. I think it was a Wildcard. I think Az was on Wildcard, a bit drunk.
Yeah, and we got you on, didn't we?
You said, "Do you want to come on?" And I said, "I'm just in my dressing gown." So it was about 11 o'clock at night.
That's it.
So that's it. Yeah.
And we were speculating whether you had slippers to go with the dressing gown. Can you confirm? Do you wear slippers or not?
I probably haven't worn slippers for about 25 years, something like that.
Well, just for effect, you're going to
get him off the pod, Mark.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. That's the only reason I got him on. I want to see them. Andy, it is a pleasure to have you on. I can remember the days, years and years ago, when you were on the ScoutCast, and this is a ScoutCast reunion, in fact, like the three of us are ScoutCast veterans of the original days. You coming to me one morning and saying, "I'm thinking of doing a few videos on YouTube."
Yeah.
Thinking, is that going to be all right? And I was like, "Yeah, it'll be fine." And I thought to myself, Andy does a few videos. That's not going to hurt anyone. It's not going to impact on the Scoutcast at all. 250,000 subscribers later. Congratulations, eh?
Jeez.
Can you believe
quite
it?
There, yeah. Not
really?
Not really. I've still got the email I sent you about.
Have you?
Yeah, about you. It's coming on for 5 years now. So yeah, wow. It's been crazy, but
it has been.
Glad I could come on and help you two guys out.
Yeah, thanks for the leg up. Thanks for the leg up, Andy. No, it is good to have you on. It's great, and tonight obviously it's another special occasion because as Wildcard active.
Absolutely, and I'm not even drinking. I'm on blackcurrant tonight, so it's not quite like the days of old, but I'm ready to be ripped in. Why is it you two always there? Whenever I wildcard,
it's true, isn't it?
You two.
That was the last time I was on,
Last time I was on. Lurking around. Yeah.
Anyway, I've seen your front line in the Wildcard, and the fact that you haven't been drinking, I don't believe it. You're going to need a drink, I think, when we go through that. Yeah, it's going to be good. We're going to look at that. So tonight, we're going to look back on Gameweek 7 briefly, but it is like that seems like ages away, doesn't it?
Mm.
Oh, international breaks are horrible, aren't they? For all kinds of reasons.
There's
this one in particular. I know.
Like 4 weeks, and then there's the next one.
Just get rid of them. We'll look back on Game Week 7, and then we're going to look at some of the key issues. You did a video, Andy, looking at the wildcard issues about 2 weeks ago, maybe less than that, 5 or 6 days ago. You may remember it, but you churn out a video every half an hour, so you've probably forgotten. But you raised some talking points on that. So I just basically plagiarised all those talking points, and we're going to go over them again tonight, the three of us, with the backdrop of some data, because it's BlackBox, so we do data, right? You know how it works. And yeah, we're just going to go over those key points again for those with the wildcard and hopefully helping those without it as well. Then we've got the predictions. We're not going to dwell on that because Az is beating me. And then we'll look at the captains, the captain conversation, and then our transfers for this week. So we'll start looking back. Let's bring your team up first, Andy. I think you deserve to be first. 61 points, top of the pile of the three of us. Talk us through it. I mean, wildcard was played last week, so you wildcarded into Game Week 7, didn't you, man?
Yeah, I literally, it's a bit similar to last year. As probably remembers, I think we both wildcarded in Game Week 5 last year, but I hit the button with like 5 minutes to go, and Az was like, "You panicked."
Yeah, what was that about? What was the actual story? Did you hit it at 10:59?
At 10:59, yeah. But the thing is, like, it's like I don't know about, like, I know you said to me the other day, if certain things happen, you'll think about hitting the wildcard button. If you're anything like me, you've thought about it all week anyway. So I'm sure right now, if you needed to wildcard quick, you could pick that team pretty fast. So I've been thinking about it all week anyway, just in case. What I was really waiting for was like Luke. You remember Luke Shaw was flagged, I think. And I've been worried about Greenwood ever since I bought him. And then all of a sudden, we start hearing rumours about Ronaldo being benched, and that was the kicker in the end. Which is quite funny because I swapped into Lukaku captain and they both pretty much got the same points anyway. But getting in Azpilicueta and Mbeumo were the two really key moves ready for last week. I already had Jimenez, so that wasn't a new player. And I mean, 61 last week was massive given how the game was played.
I mean,
I've seen 20s, 30s, from some of the big names.
Congratulations, first of all, for saying Azpilicueta, for saying Dave and Mbeumo next to each other.
Well, I'm still not sure about Mbeumo.
No, you got it wrong. It's Mbeumo. It's Mbomo.
You sure?
Yeah.
You said it differently a
God.
second ago, Mark.
No, it's Mbomo. It's Mbomo. Definitely. Look, I've more or less had it confirmed by the man himself. 61 points. But it was controversial because obviously you were doing a feed at the time, right, weren't you?
Yeah, and I basically got a message off someone I've never spoken to before, and I assume they follow me because they said they watch my videos, and they said don't share this, but I've got info that Ronaldo's benched. And so when you get that, I mean, they did have a blue tip, but when you get that off someone you've never spoke to before, you can't just. The thing is, the way I look at it, the reason I didn't blurt it out straight away. Imagine if I blurted out that Ronaldo was benched and then he wasn't benched.
Oh, I know.
Imagine
awful.
how much stuff you get for that. So, yeah, that kind of sweat. I didn't do it straight away, but I thought about it more and more. And a few other like Man United fans started putting tweets out that were like cryptic, like emojis, and I thought they all know.
Yeah.
They all know. And so I just decided to do it last minute. And it's a shame Lukaku didn't score because that would have been like the icing on the cake, really. But I'll take 61.
But
I did a last minute switch to Ronaldo. I missed all of those rumours. Typical.
yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
you did. But that was Antonio, though, wasn't it, for you?
Yeah.
So Jimenez and Azpilicueta, I did it, came in for you. And so the wild card was, you've got to say it's a success, right?
Definitely. And the thing that kind of made it better is I'd already made my move the night before. And as for the Quetta, if I was going to get one in, was the one that I wanted. And because Rudiger was possibly going to go up in price, I got him instead. And so the wild card actually switched me to have Azpilicueta as well. So like, I would have been in not trouble, but yeah, it definitely wouldn't have been as good if I hadn't done it. And I think, when you look at wild cards this week, they're not too dissimilar to how this is set up. Maybe a few changes, especially Trent, who I'm sure we'll talk about later. But yeah, I think it's looking good.
So just for the podcast, you want to go for your team, Andy, there?
Yeah, so I switched to Ramsdale in goal from Sanchez. I'm sure we're going to talk about that. I think goalkeepers is tough, actually, for once. Azpilicueta and Rudiger double up. I've got Cancelo and Laporte. I played Cancelo. Laporte's on the bench for last week. Salah and Mbomo, Rafinha and Saka in midfield. Jimenez, Antonio, Lukaku, front line with Foster. I have to keep Foster, the cycling GK, on the bench. Brownhill and Livramento as well.
Yeah.
It's fairly standard.
It is a pretty standard wild card, and we're seeing wild cards that look very similar to this, if not identical. For this,
there's about 2 odd million in the bank as well, so I have the money to get Trent back.
Wow.
As well, which I'll talk about later.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, good game week for Andy, and not so much for Mr. Az over here. Do you want to talk us through your? I mean, obviously, you had Dave, didn't you? So you got the 10 points there. You got to be delighted with his input, but that's about it. Really.
I wasn't devastated. To be fair, I mean, it was a bad week for everyone. I think I came out sort of around the average. I've seen people with a lot worse scores. Obviously, people with a lot better. But yeah, 42. Sanchez in goal came through with 6. I bought in Azpilicueta, who got 10. I was debating who to get in. It was a 1 week punt really because I knew I'd be wildcarding this week, so I got rid of Trent for Azpi, so that paid off. And then pretty much blanks everywhere else. Semedo, Soufal, Greenwood, Saar, Benrahma, Tony, Antonio, Ronaldo, all blanked. And Salah came in with 13. And I had Veltman and Livramento on my bench.
Yeah, your bench hurt you, didn't it? Yeah.
It did.
You were unlucky there, weren't you? I mean, it must have been tight playing Soufal over Veltman, right, I guess?
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't really feel easy about the Brighton double up against Arsenal. So I
would have played Soufal, I think.
Yeah, I can't say I was really considering it, to be fair. I mean, the only thing was the last minute. I mean, I did the last minute change from Antonio to Ronaldo and thought that was going to ruin my entire weekend. Not having Lukaku as well, and then Lukaku blanked, which I absolutely couldn't believe, and then Antonio blanked as well. So it's one of those ones where you stress yourself out about it for so long, and then it doesn't make a blind bit of difference how much thought or how much like anxiety you had because it's all the same. It's all the same points anyway. So it's all right. It's an average week. Move on to the next one. Wildcards in play. We move.
We definitely
move
with the wildcard. So, a big move. And we'll look exactly what you've done to your team later on in the show. I've just realised I didn't have my lights on. That was Andy throwing me completely by not having his on until we went live. I forgot to turn my own on. So there you go. You can now see me. I'm not sure that's a blessing.
As I was saying earlier, I feel very under-teched. Just got some like
under-teched
up, and you guys
Those
are
are nice
all...
pictures, though.
Yeah, they are. I'm glad to see the pictures up in the background there. For the podcast viewers, Az has his pictures up of his heroes. And there's plenty of room for more, which is the best thing.
There can always be more.
47 points for me. Not really any big scores there. I mean, Bomo was the hero coming in with the goal, which kind of made my score respectable in the Sunday game. Lukaku, how did Lukaku not get any points in that game, by the way?
I don't know. I didn't see the whole game, but I saw a lot of the second half, especially when the red card happened. I mean that Lukaku Azpilicueta chance, like that was really annoying.
Well, he hit the post from 4 yards out, didn't he?
Yeah. And the Werner goal as well. Obviously, don't take anything away from Werner, but Lukaku's right behind him. If he's not there, it's just a tap.
Well, arguably, he's there for the header on the first one as well. Well, the one that was. So, Werner definitely took some points off Lukaku.
I felt like Neo in that game, just dodging instead of bullets his points, because I was watching. I just couldn't believe that Lukaku came out of that with a blank. I would never have thought it would have happened at the start of the match, and by the end of it, I was like, okay, I will take that. Whatever happens this week, I could have been really hurt by that.
And obviously, you Alonso didn't play. You got Veltman off the bench, didn't you?
Yeah, so a bit of fortune there. Absolutely. I mean, Sanchez for 6. I know it's just I deserve some luck now and again. I think as Sanchez with a 6, Veltman 5, Rudiger 2, Shaw 2, of course, the customary 2 from Luke Shaw, and Bomo with the 8, the hero. Salah 13. We'll talk about him in a minute. Jota with 2, Sarr a single point, Benrahma 2, Antonio 2, Lukaku 2, but doubled to 4 with the captaincy. Salah, ridiculous, right?
It was so good. Both goals were brilliant. He snaps Laporte's ankles, doesn't he, for the second one? And it was the little, I can't remember exactly what he did. We did a little like kind of flick or a turn or something. I think it was past Bernardo Silva for the first for the Mane goal, and he's just so good, isn't he? I mean,
Ronaldo Player of the Month.
What was going on there?
It's just a vote, isn't it? It's like internet votes. They're never good.
Was it internet vote?
I think some of it is done through EA, through FIFA, isn't it? I don't think it counts as the whole vote, but people want Ronaldo in their foot teams, don't they? Instead of Salah.
That makes me feel the game really is dead, isn't it? The beautiful game is
angry.
dead.
Yeah, I mean Ronaldo didn't. I mean he had probably one good game out of the 4 in the league that he's played. I don't think he's been outstanding by any means. There's more to come from him. Whereas Salah has been.
It's electric.
Incredible.
The whole season.
Yeah, absolutely.
Best player in the world since the start of the season.
Arguably, but I don't want to get into that. Great in the good league. Who's top of that? Some unknown. This is a great week to have him on.
No, he's
just
not top.
realised.
We got him on.
He's not template Tom Stevenson off the top. The week we have him on. Yeah, Andy, congratulations on being top of the great and the good.
Now I'm back in it. I got taken out last year.
Yeah,
you did. Yeah,
10,000 in the world, 10,378, a really good rank. You beat me last year, and you're beating me again this year. I'm very worried by that. You do know that I target anyone above me in this league, though, so I'm coming after you.
In fact, just in case your listeners are worried, I think I've actually beat you the last 2 seasons.
Yeah,
so this could be the hat trick.
Is it 2 seasons? I'm gonna check that.
It's like 160. When you finished 170k, I finished like 166.
There's clearly a shift, isn't there?
Yeah.
Like going on.
It's getting harder now.
I love that you're using that one, Andy. Like your worst.
Oh
season.
yeah, you got to take it.
you got to take it.
I got hacked that season.
Hold on, I think we're losing, Andy. Hold on, where's the? Very well played, Andy. 61 points, the highest in the great and the good league, along with Tom Freeman. Tom Freeman also played his wild card, and it's a very good wild card. Have you seen it? Tom's wild card.
Son.
Yeah,
Son. I like that.
Really, I mean, of all the wild cards I saw, really, when you see someone's team, you think, oh, I want that team. That team looks better than mine by quite a margin. That's how I felt when I saw Tom's team.
Wait till you see my my wildcard team up.
I've seen it, and like I say, Tom's the only one I've seen that makes me feel that. No, 61 for you. You're up to 10,378. I'm slightly above mid-table now, in 6th place behind Les Caldwell, Neil, FPL Matthew, Tom Stevenson, and Andy. And as your 5th from bottom, ahead of Fabio still, though. Fabio's catching you up, though. It's very, very tight, isn't it?
I mean, it's crazy. I mean, there's 5 people between us and 7 points.
Yeah.
So it's so tight. Yeah,
it is crazy tight. There's no one, because I mean, Yavuz is having arguably the worst. Well, not arguably, he's having the worst season so far, but only at 600k. I mean, there was loads of us around 2 million, 1 million at this, 1 million, 2 million at this point last season. So yeah, we're all doing a bit better, which is encouraging.
No Salah captaincies in the league. Notice that everyone went Ronaldo or Lukaku, perhaps predictably, but yeah. Normally Magnus is good for a rogue captain, but he went Lukaku as well. So it's noticeably as well. If you look at the bottom table, I've got the most points for my captain out of anyone so far this season. So I'm pleased with that, because normally I'm rubbish.
Is this just you two just gloating
Yes,
about
me and Andy. Yeah,
tonight?
I don't know. Yeah, exactly. Is that right?
I haven't got any, so
wait till the wild card comes up.
Yeah, so you get your moment of glory then, kind of. Okay, let's look at some data. Team data in defence. We do this, Andy. We look at some numbers now and again. What I wanted to pick out here, which is noticeable, the top table shows team defensive data sorted by minutes per XG conceded non-penalty for the season. And then the bottom table shows the last 4 because we've had 7 game weeks now. The real thing of interest is you look at Arsenal over the season, they're 19th, and their fixture difficulty for those 7 games is 11th. But over the last 4, they're the 4th ranked defence with the 3rd best fixtures over those 4 matches, 4 game weeks. So interesting when we're looking at Ramsdale, there's clearly been a big jump in their defensive performances, right? So I guess you had that in mind, Andy, when you brought him in, right?
Yeah, like I said earlier, I think they usually by this point, especially usually by game week 3 or 4, but by game week 8, you expect the cheap goalkeeper to have kind of emerged as like a definite. I think there's a lot of people that switch to Ramsdale. I think maybe I got suckered in a little bit by the short-term fixtures. Bearing in mind, I'm not going to make a goalkeeper transfer till next wildcard unless he gets injured. I think it's a little bit of a bet on Arsenal defence improving because it was quite poor. It wasn't, Brighton's defence was probably better last year as well. Obviously, they got Tomiyasu there now, Gabriel and White partnership. They had a few issues right at the start of the season. So there is a little bit of a bet that they're going to improve. But I don't think anyone that sticks with Sanchez is making a mistake. No. I really don't. Because
the issue with Sanchez is Basuma. Losing Basuma is massive.
How long's he out? I've completely missed it. How long's he out for?
Depends if he gets found guilty or not.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, God, of course.
Sorry. He's that player,
yeah, sorry.
Right?
Oh, my God. Yeah, okay.
It could be a long stretch, right? Quite literally. Yeah. Well, let's not go into that. I
don't honestly, obviously, we don't know the specifics of it, but I can't imagine he's going to be playing for
fair enough,
a significant while.
No, that is a factor. Although they've coped okay with him without him recently, but we'll see.
We've got players that can come in and do a job, but he's the real difference maker. So I do worry about, and we've got some tough fixtures coming up. We've got City coming up and stuff. Yeah, I really like Ramsdale. I think Ramsdale's the play.
Well, you've got him in a wildcard, bit of a spoiler there. I mean, Brighton are the 2nd best defence over the season and the last 4 as well. That's consistent if you look at the top table to the bottom one. The other thing that's consistent, look at City. For the first 7 fixtures, they had the 16th set of, they were ranked 16th on the ticker, so really tough fixtures, top. The last 4 ranked 18th on the ticker, top. It's makes no difference, does it? As Man City's offence is the way to go.
It's obscene, really, isn't it? It's making me think 2 City defenders on the wild card might be the way to go. It wasn't really something I was considering until I did a pod the other day for Chasing Green Arrows, and someone sent in their team which had 2 City defenders. I was like, oh, that's nice. And Gianni earlier as well, I did the video of him, and he had 2 City defenders. I was like, that does actually look pretty good. Because surely they're going to keep more clean sheets against in the next 3, for example. I mean, Burnley and Brighton. I can't see how those teams are going to score against them with these numbers. So, yeah, Diaz and Cancelo looking really good, and Laporte as well is a bit of a left field shout from Andy there as well.
Yeah, you'll see why when we get to the defender data later on, why Laporte could be a masterstroke. But yeah, minutes per chance over the season, 14.7. That's almost double the rest of the league. It's only really Wolves and Brighton that get anywhere near close to that. Wolves on 9.1 minutes per chance and Brighton 8.4, and then City out there on 14.7. They're just not conceding chances, not conceding big chances or shots on target. Ederson's got nothing to do. And although the fixtures are tough, they came through that and are the top-ranked defence. So, yeah, we'll look at defenders and we'll talk about City pairings or Chelsea pairings in a bit. One thing to check out there as well, I'll also highlight Palace. They had tough fixtures over the season, 19th on the ticker, but 8th overall for defensive data. Over the last 4, 17th on the ticker, 7th overall. Do you think they're going to have some bargains coming out of their defence when the fixtures get better?
I think it's less about them having some options, but more maybe about them not being the whipping boys like we thought they might be earlier. I wouldn't feel comfortable captaining a player against Palace like I thought I would at the start of the season because they just keep turning up.
I'm a little bit I'm a little bit more we have to give them some credit, but it's just so obviously you can't wait forever. They were so bad last year. Obviously, they've got a lot of new players. Obviously, Gallagher's brilliant. A couple of new centre backs, etc. I don't know. I still wouldn't back them. I don't think, but maybe I'd be a little bit more hesitant about backing against them. Possibly. I'm not really sure they've got too many players there that I'd be looking at buying.
No Patrick anymore, right?
So no, neither do I.
Yeah. Attacking data, and it's much the same. Liverpool are top in both over the season, 7 matches. And over the last 4 as well. So their at the moment the most powerful attack. I mean, if you look at the last four, a big chance every 21.2 minutes, a shot every 4.7 minutes. It's really strong. Chelsea behind them in second. But you look at United, interestingly, have had a shot every 4.6 minutes over the last four. So they've shown good attacking. And it's obviously Ronaldo, right? He's played those 4 matches and he's made a difference to the number of the shot volume again. But what I've highlighted here is Brentford. They came into the season with the 15th worst fixtures, ranked 15th on the ticker. So they had poor fixtures over the first 7, and yet they end up the 7th best attack. And over the last 4, 16th on the ticker, the 5th best attack. And they're just about to go into good fixtures. So we've got to give them credit and pay them some attention, right?
Absolutely. I mean, they found a system which just works really well. And I think I was reading about them earlier, they only unlocked it towards the end of last season. And probably Mboma was pretty poor until they kind of switched the wing backs and put him up front. He was quite ineffective on the wing. Tony's got a new role this season as well, playing almost like a Harry Kane light, dropping deep and linking up play and stuff like that. I wonder if that's going to continue when the fixtures get a bit easier. I think they might be looking to use him a bit more, a bit further up the pitch. But if he carries on, doing that role of linking back, I just think Mboma is such a good option. Out of position, 5.5, great fixture on the horizon. He looks like he could be this year's Mahrez, Lundstrom, whatever. I just think he's absolutely superb value.
Yeah, I got him in early, and I've got no benefit from that
I know,
whatsoever because everyone's getting him in now.
I love him even
so
more. So
annoying. So it's like I spotted him
8
early.
points per game in my team.
And when I got him in, I had some text going, "Oh, you do know he could get pushed into a wing back role when and I was like, oh dear. And I went, no, I'm going to go for it. No reward. And Andy, you've got him now. You're getting him in as. It's like, oh.
Well, it's elite management from Andy. Just knows exactly when to bring him in to get 8 points. That's the difference.
Beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely. The other teams I've highlighted here are Southampton and Villa. I mean, Villa over the last 4 have had the worst fixtures of any team, and yet a mid-table. And Southampton had the worst fixtures over the first 7, and kind of just under mid-table. Are they 2 teams that we've overlooked to this point? Do you think they've got any players there that we should be looking at now the fixtures are getting better for them? Andy?
Yeah, I think Southampton, if you're looking for a cheap forward right now, I think someone like Armstrong could be decent. I think I'd have to pull up the exact fixtures, but they play pretty much all the teams you'd want to play over the next kind of 5 or so games.
I'll help you out there. There's the ticker up on screen. So it's Leeds, Burnley, Watford, Villa.
Yeah, and then Norwich. So, I mean, obviously a couple of home games next, Leeds and Burnley. I mean, some of those, like Norwich, Watford, Burnley, and Leeds, to be fair, they're probably like, 4 of the top 5 fixtures you can get. You throw in Newcastle there, and that's probably as good as it gets. So I wouldn't completely write him off. The problem is he's not that much cheaper than Tony, and we know Tony has penalties. I don't know if Armstrong might have them while Ward-Prowse is suspended, possibly.
Yeah.
But if you're someone that likes playing fixtures, which you definitely should be, then those next 5 are about as good as it gets. But if you want a long-term pick for like 0.4 million more, Tony is probably the one. That's the only problem really, I think, with Southampton. No one else really I would be considering. I don't think any of their midfielders are worth taking up a spot, to be honest.
And with Villa, it's Watkins for me. I mean, I think he's shown good early form, and I'm just waiting for the fixtures to fall better for him before I have a more detailed look. He's not a player I liked last season, but suddenly I'm seeing a bit more from him. We fancy him, don't we, Az?
Yeah, I'm trying to get it out of my head that he's like not a winger this season, because we, pre-season we were all kind of like, Watkins is dead as an option, Ings is there, he's going to be the main man. But there's 0.5 difference between them now. I don't think there's a massively lot between them. I mean, Ings is on pens if El Ghazi's not on the pitch, but it's still a bit of a toss-up. So yeah, I think Watkins is a great differential. I mean, Ings is still 16% owned. Watkins is 1.6. So I think if I was going to pick between the two, I would probably favour Watkins.
And just a word on Watford in our table here. They're 19th for their attack over the first 7 games, and yet they had the very best fixtures of any team. Ranieri's got a job on, Andy, right?
Yeah, I think the only good thing about obviously Watford, you get someone like Sarr, he's so heavily, like if they're going to score, he will be involved. So it's not, even though their attack as a team is bad, it would never put me off owning Sarr. I know they've got, Liverpool and then Everton and Southampton. I don't think that's that bad. Like if you've got him, I don't think you're necessarily in a panic about selling him. Like they probably won't score many goals, but when they do, he will be involved. Yeah. So Sarr on his own is probably okay to hold for probably the next
It's
3.
Liverpool, Everton, Southampton. You're absolutely right. And Arsenal away. I mean, I look at it and think Ranieri's going to go in. A lot of talk of him putting a 4-4-2 in place because that's what he favours. And I want to see what he does with Sarr, because obviously he got the best out of Mahrez in a similar wing position. And there's even a chance Sarr could end up in the front too. So
Yeah, I've seen a few people speculate.
yeah,
that,
so I want to see him under Ranieri before I give up totally. But he is probably, him or Benrahma is the player to go next for me in the next couple of game weeks if I don't see enough. But
Do you both not think that this Ranieri to Watford is going to be a complete and utter disaster?
I try not to be that cynical.
It's like the manager who's managed the most clubs ever going to the team that has sacked the most managers ever. It just, I give him 6 months max.
Wasn't great at Fulham, was it, to be fair?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really know why there was a sacking anyway, apart from the fact it's Watford, because I thought they were actually doing all right. I know they had, like you said, really great fixtures, but
they were competing, weren't they? Like they were.
I think the point is,
all right.
Yeah, I wouldn't be buying Sarr right now, but I don't think I'd be panicking about him either. Obviously, if you're on a wild card, you're not keeping him. But if you've got him, I mean, you're not wild carding, like you might not be, Mark, then I don't see an issue with keeping him. They're not a very good attack, but he is a really good player.
Yeah, I mean, Ranieri, I think you're right, as I am a bit sceptical about what impact he can have. But he is, he's a charismatic character. He's got his own way of playing. I just don't think he's got enough to play with there.
No, that's the problem. I love him. I think he's absolutely brilliant. I'm really glad to have him back in the Premier League, but I just think this is a hell of a job to come in and take on, and under so much pressure from that ruthless board as well. I can't see it going too well for him, but hopefully he'll prove me wrong.
Right, we're going to talk wildcards now. And the first thing we're going to tackle, the first question that you tackled on your video, Andy, your steamed video, was when to wildcard. Now, obviously, you've played your wildcard, as yours is active. Mine isn't played and isn't going to be played this week either. So, obviously, you guys think that you've played it at the right time, presumably. But we'll go to Az first. Did you look ahead and think there would be an even better time? Or were you just certain? You were kind of committed to playing it between 7 and 8, right?
Yeah, I knew with the Chelsea fixture turn I was going to want to play it this week, and I hadn't been getting any Chelsea players, unlike you, who'd already got some in place, and it was a lot easier for me to move for the likes of Rudiger, Lukaku. I was hoping a midfielder would really sort of stand out, and Mason Mount's probably the one that I'd go for, but I'm not sure I'm gonna commit. But it's also City as well. I mean, City with their next 3 fixtures, like I can get on board with that too. I think this is the time to sell Ronaldo and spread the funds around. So everything just kind of lined up perfectly for me this week. So yeah, I'm happy with the decision so far.
I mean, you Andy, you had a full 30 seconds to think before you pressed your button. So presumably you thought about it a long time, right?
Yeah, there was just a few things that all kind of happened at once. So, I wasn't really worried about not basically selling my Man United players. I think even if you got them this week, you could hold them if you absolutely need to. It's just that like I said before, we didn't have the news about Green, and plus all the Chelsea and Man City players they're all going up in price as well. So I knew the money would be different. I didn't really look too much further forward to see if there was a better spot, like game week 12, possibly like Man United again. I got Watford. A lot of people are going to struggle to get Ronaldo, I think, unless they go straight from Lukaku and don't forget about Kane. But I just think I try not to worry too much about the wild card, because once it's used, you just plan for those things, or at least you try to, right? So you're never going to get massively caught out. Like if I hadn't used the wild card, I would have, just got some Chelsea players in. But it was all kind of a couple of weeks ago for me. Like I brought Sarr in for Benrahma, and then I was like, I don't need any transfers next week. And then that following week is when Bamford got injured, everyone started getting flagged, and I was like, it's just going to have to be used now.
I've got to admit, I was close when the flags started appearing, and we'll talk about them when we get to our teams, because it turns out a lot of them seem to be phantom flags.
Yeah.
Don't they? But I look at it now, and this ticker we've got on screen shows game weeks 9 to 20, and you've got to play the wild card before going into game week 20. Otherwise, you lose it, right? So I look at this now and think, right, if I'm not going to play it now, when am I going to play it? And between 11 and 12 is the next international break. Oh, again, another one. And I do look at that and see an opportunity, because Spurs' fixtures, they come out of that with Leeds, Burnley, Brentford and Norwich. It's just at the moment, I look at Spurs and I'm like, and we'll talk about Son later, and I do fancy him, but I probably going to fancy him a lot more in 3 or 4 weeks' time when they've got that fixture run, right? So I think maybe there's an opportunity there, particularly with City have got good fixtures from 15 onwards, so you can get on early with them. United's fixture turn as well. So I think between 11 and 12 is the next window. But I think you said it on your video, Andy. It's very personal, isn't it, when it feels right to play the card?
Yeah, and I honestly, I do think we get a bit too caught up in what everyone else is doing, because if I use mine now and you use yours later, you'll play this next few weeks differently to how I'll play it. Like I might have to think a bit more ahead. Like one of the reasons, again, I did the Benrahma to Sarr move was because I knew I had the wild card to fall back on if it went wrong. It was a bit more of an aggressive move. I probably wouldn't make that move now, that same move, because Benrahma had okay fixtures. It's like right now I'm already planning. Like I know that game week 12 fixture swings happening for Spurs. So if I want Kane, then it's Lukaku to Kane. Just seems like a no-brainer issue. The only thing with Man City, like obviously their fixtures turn good in 50. I just think, like, we'll talk about Man City attackers later, but in terms of defence, I don't think it matters if you get on now or in game week 15, right? They're just going to do well all that way through. So I think a lot of the players you'll probably target then, you could also think about now. Like a lot of people are going to go with Son on their wild card right now. Whether or not that's necessarily worth a lot of points over the next 3, who knows? But at least they've got him in place then.
Yeah, I mean, it's about, though, for me, it's about when do I look at my team and think I can confidently get a new set of players that are going to do better than the team I've got. And you've got to feel certain of that. Otherwise, it's quite nerve-wracking, isn't it? Because you're taking... I mean, this week, a lot of players will be taken out. A lot of managers will be taken out. Benrahma, they'll be taken out. Sarr. And there's a chance that they don't perform, but there's also a chance that they do. And so, you know, that's the risk, isn't it, with the wild card? Unless you've got umpteen flags and I guess if you've got Ronaldo and you want to move to Lukaku, and in your case, that was probably the key thing, right?
Yeah, I mean, I've taken out 11 out of my 15 players.
Blimey, have you? Right.
So, you know,
quite a lot.
Yeah, it's quite a lot. So there were just players in my team that I just didn't want going forward. I don't think Ronaldo is going to be worth the money. Rashford's back now, and I wonder what's going to happen with him. He hasn't really been doing too well with Ronaldo in the team anyway. I didn't feel happy with triple West Ham, for example, because of the fixture turn. Didn't have any Chelsea players. You know, there's just a time when sometimes you just look at your team and you just think, yeah. And it's not necessarily like my team hasn't done really badly. It's not like I'm looking at them and thinking these are all rubbish players, but I'm just using it as an opportunity to shake it up a bit. Normally, I use the wildcard after a bad week or when things are going really badly.
Is that the right thing to do, though? Because you're full of emotion and it's raw.
Yeah, I mean, not always, but if you've got a team of 6 or 7 players who are just underperforming, stats aren't good, tough fixtures, and you're ranked a million, and you want to freshen it up a bit, then you've got to think about price rise as well early in the season. So there's loads of reasons to play a wild card. But
I usually think sorry, go on.
I was just going to say, yeah, but when you look at your team and you want to take out 11 of them, to me that's a pretty good time to use it.
Yeah, I think if there's like a few like core players and then a few like periphery players as well, that's probably like last year I did it because Kane and Son were about to go. They'd already done really well, and they were also about to go into a really good run. So those 2 players are kind of the kicker. This week it was like Lukaku, Chelsea defense, and a couple of Man City players. Like I got in Mbomo and Saka instead of Greenwood and Sarr. I wasn't really that bothered about those 2. They just came with the fact that I was wildcard, and it was really just the Chelsea, Man City players and getting rid of Man United players. So it was only really 5 kind of key changes that I want to make. So I kept Jimenez. Like you were saying about how sometimes you don't want to get rid of players. I didn't really want to get rid of Jimenez on my wildcard. Whereas if I wildcarded this week, I'm not saying I would definitely get rid of him, but I would think about it. Last week it wasn't a choice.
It's funny because I've done a wildcard, and we'll show it later when we looked at some of the data and we've talked about some of the issues in depth. And in that wildcard, I have made very few changes, which is why I'm not playing it, right? As you say, you've made 11 changes. Can you hand on heart say that none of those are kind of like forced? Because there is that kind of... I mean, Ross did a really good video on the psychology of it. And I always think when I play the wild card, you don't want to just make 4 or 5 changes. You want to make wholesale changes, don't you?
You definitely
you look at your keeper and go, well, I could keep Sanchez, but I'm playing my wild card, so I'm going to change it. Or I could keep Sarr, but I'm playing my wild card, so I'm going to change it to Smith Rowe. And there's a temptation then. You'll just make changes just for the bloody sake of it.
Some of them. I definitely agree with Sanchez. I mean, Semedo and Soufal in defence, like I don't want them. Like I just don't want Soufal's been. I mean, Soufal has matched Shaw, which is what I wanted him to do, but I don't know how that's happened. Benrahma. Well, like I said, I've been through these. I don't think Watford. I know what Andy's saying about Sarr, but at the same time, the fixtures are all. I mean, Liverpool, Everton, Southampton. Okay, that's good. Then Arsenal, United, Leicester, Chelsea, Man City. I mean, it's an awful run for Ranieri to come in and try and stamp his authority on. I just don't know what they're going to be like under him. So I'm more than happy to get rid of him. He probably wouldn't be like my first priority to get rid of if I wasn't wildcarding, but I wouldn't feel too confident going with him going forward. But like I said, it's mostly Ronaldo. Getting rid of Ronaldo just really lets me move the money around. And we know Ronaldo loves scoring against the smaller teams. I do wonder how effective he's going to be in some of these bigger matches. He might tick over, but we're not going to captain him. And I can do a lot with the money. He's in 12.5. He's got to be delivering double digits regularly, and I just can't see it.
We haven't touched on Ronaldo, but we'll do that when we get to the forwards, because I want to talk more about what that benching means long term and so on. So let's talk about each position and talk about some of the issues now. Bring up the keepers first, and one of the things that you brought up first of all is premium keepers, Andy, and whether we should go to that. And it's quite interesting if you look at this table here, which basically is sorted by clean sheets, but this reflects the FPL points as well. Ederson top, Alisson second. These are the two keepers that we expect to see there at the end, and maybe Martinez and Mendy will push up as well. You know, the big heavy hitter keepers are going to be top of the FPL points, but we still don't look at them, do we?
Standard clickbait from Andy, that is.
Yeah, I know. He's a master of it.
That was a very commonly asked question. That was. I just can't do it. Like, I fully agree that you've got to play the season in front of you, and like we were all looking at kind of about £7 to £8 million forwards, and that was going to be the front line all season. And obviously, Lukaku and Ronaldo come in, we switch because the season's now going to play out a little bit different, but. When have you ever known a premium goalkeeper to be the play? Like never. Like towards the end of the season, possibly if you wildcard late and there's only a few game weeks left, and you know Edison or someone's got a really good fixture on them, possibly when you know you're not going to suddenly need the funds for something else. But it's such a huge difference in price. Like it's really hard to calculate. I think it's really hard to prove it. But that extra 1 to 1.5 million, I just feel like I can always put it to better use. Yeah. And if it's fine for now. It won't always be fine, and you will never want to make that transfer. You'll do it because you have to do it, and you'll be annoyed you're having to take out that goalkeeper. No one ever wants to do a goalkeeper swap. So I don't think... We know Liverpool and Man City and Chelsea defence is great, but I'd rather have their defenders that I can move on. And they might be top now, but how often is a premium keeper actually at the top? I feel like it very...
Yeah, I mean, Ederson will probably be top of the FPL points, right? But not by enough, right? They'll probably
was he last year, though?
No, Martinez wasn't it?
Martinez was extraordinary though last year. I think he beat the overall
De Gea
record.
was the one example, wasn't he? Years when he was making when he made like 14 saves against Arsenal, and every week he was doing well, and everyone kind of went for him. I think he was 5-5 that season or something like that.
He had that game at Arsenal when he got 11 saves.
Was it 11 saves? Yeah. Exactly.
Oh yeah, mad game.
But I'll draw your attention to Mendy here, because Mendy is delivering in the same way. If you look at this data here, minutes per save 28.4. And to put that into perspective, the best is 21.7, which is Melier. We'll talk about them in a minute. But Sanchez is making a save every 48.5 minutes. So Mendy, although he's playing in front of a defence which is regarded as one of the best, is making saves more often, right? Even than Ramsdale. Ramsdale's on a save every 40 minutes so far. So Mendy's making saves frequently. His minutes per BPS is better than both Ramsdale and Sanchez as well. So he's getting more likely to get bonus points if Chelsea don't have players in attack who get the bonus, obviously. And his XG prevented is the best of any keeper. So he's basically ticking all the boxes, and yet we're totally ignoring him.
Sorry.
Yeah, well, there's the other issue is it locks you out of free Chelsea, right? Because I still think going for two Chelsea defenders and Lukaku, or going for a defender midfield striker is the way to go with with the fixtures, just to really kind of try and tap into them as much as you can. If you've got Mendy in there, what if Mount does emerge? What if Havertz doesn't emerge? What if we haven't got the wild card to move on them? Like Andy said, you don't want to be making a transfer on these, but it could happen. It limits your flexibility. And is he really going to earn that many more points over some of there's loads of good 4.5 options. We haven't mentioned Guaita, for example.
Yeah, no, he's good.
28.6 means a save. I mean, Melier's there, 21.7. I think he could be a great shout. He's a million less. Raya, Sanchez, Ramsdale. There's too many goalkeepers at 5 million and under. For me to consider the likes of Mendy.
So, Andy, on Mendy, what are your thoughts?
I think it looks fine now, and in the short term, it'd probably be fine. I just think long term, you want to it's just that classic case of in a few weeks' time when you need £1 million or so to upgrade a player, which player are you going to look at first to get it? The goalkeeper. Which player do you not want to use a transfer on? The goalkeeper. It's combos as well, isn't it? It's not just fair to do a 6 million versus a 4.5 because there's a 1.5 million to play around with that you can put in elsewhere. And if Chelsea, you do want to come off them, you just swap your outfield defenders to someone else, right? Because they're one of the most expensive defenders in the game. So I don't think anyone could ever sell it on me. And also, right, I follow a bunch of the kind of analytics guys on Twitter. You know how they'll be really sure about a specific player.
As is aware of their work, he loves them guys.
But it doesn't matter if the whole community is against them. They'll stick with their player. Not even they go for premium goalkeepers. Yeah. It's just no one likes them. I don't think they're a good option. No one will ever convince me. I don't think.
No, and I think the thing with Mendy as well is you get the Chelsea nailed on start, right? But I think there's still potential. Well, you kind of do.
Kepa occasionally comes in.
I think Kepa might get the odd game over the season.
Yeah, okay, maybe not. But I do look at Chelsea and think, Chilwell and James could yet emerge as nailed-on starters, and their attacking potential, as we'll see in the next table, is really quite conclusive, right, and tempting. So you want to wait for that time, I think. I'm looking at Chelsea defence and thinking, now is not the time to come. Now it's Azpilicueta and Rudiger, but I think in a few weeks it could be James and Chilwell, right? So... when you get Mendy, you're locking yourself out if you've got Lukaku off one of those. So, yeah, Gaito is a player. I mean, the data looks good for him. 4.5, 28.6 minutes per save is really strong compared to Sanchez and even Raya. Raya's on a save every 35 minutes. But his BPS is strong, 5.8, and that's mainly because minutes per recovery, 7.6, is the best in the league. So he's getting those recoveries which contribute to BPS, which puts him in good stead for bonus points. So that's why Raya, as well as good fixtures, looks tempting. But I've got to talk about Meslier because he's a keeper at the start of the season. I said, when I play my wildcard, he's the one to get. I mean, miles out in front for minutes per BPS, 4.8 minutes per BPS, like almost a full minute above other keepers. Like if Leeds' fixtures get better, well, they are getting better, but if they can sort their defence out a bit, I think he's going to be gold. You don't think ever going to happen?
It's such a big ask for them to just turn it around because I know when Llorente's in a team they are better. I get that. But one, he's always injured, and two, I don't think he suddenly makes Leeds a great defence. It might make them just a little bit awful instead of completely awful, but they still give up chances all the time. And there's just nothing we've seen that says otherwise. They were awful last year. They've started off this season. They're awful. And I get it because if they do get a clean sheet, Meslier is going to be like Martinez last year. He's going to get a big score. But the difference was Martinez was getting the clean sheets fairly often. I just don't. I do like the idea of going for Meslier. I think if we were playing a game where I know in Sky, it's actually worthwhile sometimes changing your keepers. You could make a case for it. I just think in FPL, it's a big ask for Leeds to turn it around.
Yeah, it's just so lightweight in central midfield and defence. Teams can almost just walk past them at times, and they rely on Meslier so heavily to get the saves.
But it could change, as it changed last season. Bielsa really did change it up for the second half of the season. We saw it in the data. Could happen again. He just needs players fit.
Yeah, I think he's an exciting pick as far as goalkeepers go because he could be the one that gets you those double-digit hauls regularly if they do kind of sort it out and he's making the saves. He's like the opposite of Sanchez. Sanchez is never going to hit. I don't think Sanchez will get a single double-digit haul all season, whereas I can see Meslier getting 4 or 5.
Yeah, he's the sexy goalkeeper pick. That's why he's standing out to me. I always look for the sexy picks, and Melier's the one. But mate, I'm hoping by the time I play the wildcard, I'll be more tempted. But I think you're right, Andy. You talked me out of it, so that's fair
goalkeepers are just boring. Just make the boring pick and do the exciting stuff elsewhere.
Let's move on to defenders, which is a tad more exciting. So this area, what you talked about really was the double Chelsea defence versus double Man City, and we looked at the data previously. Man City miles ahead, and as you were saying. I don't know what you've got in your wildcard yet, but you're saying you're tempted to go 2 City, 1 Chelsea, right?
Yeah, I am. Yeah, I mean, mostly because you look at the Man City midfield options and it's so hard to know who's going to play. We're looking at Foden, Torres, Grealish, Gabriel Jesus has entered my thoughts at some point, and it's like, God, why? I'm paying more for these guys, like 2 million more, when I could just go for Cancelo and Diaz and just probably get a regular set of returns coming in. So, yeah, I think because we just we're never going to be sure about who's going to be playing, in an attacking role for City, and because their defensive numbers are so good, I think it is a viable strategy. I think going forward at the back as well is maybe it's probably one of the closest I've been since the infamous wing back season.
What was that? What year was that? 2004 or something?
No, that was 2000 and...
it's got to be 4 or 5 years, hasn't it?
So infamous, he can't remember it.
2017-18 is my best season. When I started with Kolasinac, Ben Davies, Alonso, and someone else.
Players, Ben Davies and Kolasinac. The North London double.
Kolarov, I think. Was he there?
Right, well, you can't mess with him.
Yeah, he was brilliant.
I'm just gonna change the table we've got there. So what we're showing is the top 30 defenders sorted by minutes per XGI non-penalty. But I'm going to bring up a filtered list which brings in some names that are popular in the wildcard selection. So what I'm showing now is a filtered list, not the top 30, but the same number of defenders, but going down to players like Ben White in terms of minutes per XGI non-penalty. There's Ben White at the bottom. XGI non-penalty every 4,090 minutes. That's what you get with Ben White. Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, I mean, these are the defenders that most are looking at with their wild card at the moment. And one thing I want to talk about in a minute is Alexander-Arnold. But, Andy, have you got any comments on the double Chelsea or double City, first of all?
Yeah, I think the Chelsea defenders are just a little bit cheaper. The problem with wildcarding this week is it's like you were just saying, I don't know how confident I would be about going James or Chilwell right now. I feel like if you go to Chilwell, I feel like it's just asking for trouble. Like Alonso, I know people were saying he's not played as well the last few games, but he's also played against Juventus and Man City. Like that's not that easy to play. So I don't feel like Chilwell. It's like everyone was saying that Alonso's nailed. Now Chilwell's coming in. It's now that Alonso's never going to play. It's just not the case. Right?
I think he could play at Brentford. I think because they're good in the air, set pieces. They might need a bit more height. He could play Alonso, so that could surprise everyone.
Well, I did a video the other day. I said if you've got Alonso and you're not wildcard and you got other priority transfers, you could keep him for the next couple. He could get one of starts in the next two. Like it's possible. I think Reece James. If you're going to go a little bit more excited, I think Reece James is the one because I mean he's just got a bit less competition out there. Like Azpilicueta could play there, of course, and Hudson-Odoi, but I just don't see Hudson-Odoi getting a huge amount of minutes. But yeah, I think Man City defense is definitely better. Like we've seen that. It was the same last year. It's going to be the same this year. And I think because the Chelsea boys have risen up in price, they're not even that much less. Rudiger's up to 5.8 now. He offers like hardly anything going forward. So Cancelo and Diaz, or like I've got Cancelo and Laporte, maybe a little bit riskier on the old minutes, but I think it looks great.
I can tell you exactly. Right, Rudiger 69th for minutes per XGI non-penalty. XGI non-penalty every 1,235 minutes. You're not getting much from Rudiger.
That goal, like if you add him in for that goal, that's just the kind of luck you need because he probably won't get another one this season. Although
he's foraying forward, isn't he? As that left centre back.
He's a man possessed.
Yeah.
You've got to remember, he's all over the place. That guy. He's going to get a red card one week, a goal the next. It's very exciting. Just quickly on Alonso. I mean, I don't really see why loads of people go for Chilwell. I think Alonso is the one that I'd go for because they're both, assuming they're both going to play a similar amount of minutes, I'd rather have Alonso in those games than Chilwell. But I mean, the good thing about sticking with them is if you've got Livramento, just how good his fixtures are to cover Alonso when he doesn't play. I mean, it couldn't work out better for a 4 million defender to come in and act as cover to someone like Alonso with Leeds, Burnley, Watford, Villa, Norwich on the horizon, which is perfectly in line with Chelsea's good run. So I think it's perfectly fine to keep him. Yeah,
I was watching the Scoutcast and they were talking about this in depth about the risk of those players. If they don't come off the bench, it's not a risk as long as you've got a player that can come in like Livramento. I think Alonso, I don't see Chilwell coming off the bench. I think last season he never came off the bench, but Alonso just got that little bit of like he could be brought on, particularly if they need a goal. Alonso coming on for Chilwell, it's that improvement, isn't it? So I'd worry about Alonso coming off the bench, but Reece James, you look at this table, right? We'll talk about Trent in a minute, but Chilwell and James, I mean, Chilwell's got one game, small sample, but Reece James has got a few games under his belt, and he's right up there for minutes XGI non-penalty, 154.5 compared to Trent on 145.6. And the thing what encouraged me about Reece James as soon as Lukaku started, Reece James got straight in at wing-back, having played right centre-back last season under Tuchel, and he came back in against City at right wing-back against the toughest opponent. He got injured. I think he's favoured in that right wing-back role. As soon as he's fit, and it looks like he's back now and could be in this week, he's in right wing-back, and he's going to be a key supply chain for Lukaku. So when I play my wild card, I think Reece James hopefully will be established. And I can go to him without any concern. That's what my hope is anyway. I mean, I really like him. I mean, as you're a big fan of James as well, aren't you?
Oh yeah, I know. I just want those minutes. It's so frustrating because he just seems so obviously the best choice to play.
Yeah.
I mean, Alonso and Chilwell, they both got their strengths, both got their weaknesses, but you wouldn't be surprised to see either of them start. But when I don't see James playing and I see like Hudson-Odoi there or Azpilicueta moving over or something, I just think surely you're weakening your side by not having James because he offers so much. But he is that makes him one of the most frustrating players to own in the game, I think.
No, he can be.
Think he should be a bit like Foden. You just think he should be playing, but then doesn't.
I think he will, though. I think the signs are good that he'll be in there with Lukaku as his target, right, for the crossing. He's undoubtedly, I think, the best source of crossing in that team for me. So
Yep.
Yep.
Trent, let's talk Trent because his numbers are ridiculous. I mean, he's only just ahead for minutes per XGI and non-penalty. But when you look at, this is what surprised me. Minutes per chance created, he's top, right? 21.4. That's not a surprise. We expect him to be top for that. Minutes per shot, he's the top ranked defender for minutes per shot. A shot every 40.9. So that's ahead of any centre back from set pieces, including Laporte, Duffy, and Van Dijk, who are ranked high. But he's shooting more than ever. Only Chilwell can beat him, but Chilwell's had one game, so you can't base it on that. So I look at this, and minutes per BPS 4.4. He's top for that. I mean. If you sold him in the wildcard, and Andy, you have, I presume you're panicking and want him back, right?
I'm not panicking too much. It'd be really good if he could miss this game.
I can see those slippers shaking from here. Come off it.
Well, the thing is, maybe I've kind of trapped myself a little bit. The thing is, Chelsea and Man City's next 3 fixtures are really good. So I feel like if I can get away with the Watford game, maybe I could just hold off for a little bit longer. But yeah, I'm not sitting here kidding myself that Trent's a bad player. Like, he's the best defender in the game by a long way, I would say, because he's nailed on. If you're on a wildcard, you have to have him. There's no doubt about that.
Well, this is it. I've seen a lot of wildcards this week, and people saying, "Oh, my team looks so much better with Trent out."
It's a load of rubbish.
Were you thinking about it?
Oh no, God no, no. Trent's. I sold him last week for Azpilicueta, but only because he was out. He was always coming straight back in. I guess if you went with a Chelsea defender and 2 City defenders, you might be thinking to yourself, maybe I can kind of get away with it, but
only for so long.
Why give yourself that stress? Just get in. Arguably, after Salah, the best player in the game. Like this, he's too good. Like, you just watch Liverpool play, and you watch the form he's in. You look at these stats. You do all this research. He's just not someone that I would back against.
It's just ridiculous. I mean, the shots really surprised me. I mean, he has been coming inside more and being in more range of taking it. He obviously takes direct free kicks as well. So perhaps we know he's got it in his locker, but I just couldn't believe that he came out on top for that.
If there's one glimmer of hope for those of us that might not have him for this week, is that Alisson and Fabinho are probably not going to be playing, are they? But again, I don't think that suddenly means that Watford are going to score a load of goals. So, yeah, on a wildcard, there's no question for me. For those of us that didn't go with him, though, Chelsea Man City's fixture is just so good. I feel like if you get away with... The only problem is, a game week 10, he plays Brighton at home. That just looks like a guaranteed clean sheet to me. And so it's only a couple of weeks. It's only a couple of weeks later. You're probably going to want him back anyway. What I really want to happen is one of my Chelsea Man City defenders to get injured.
The thing is, he's getting to the point, Andy, where you don't. If the clean sheet goes, you don't mind because you think there's a return in it anyway.
Yeah, but then the amount he can hurt you goes down once the clean sheet's gone.
So I wouldn't. What happened last time you sold Trent?
Yeah, well, that was a bit different.
What did happen? What was that?
24-point.
Was it? He's got that in him this season. Like, he's got a big haul this season, right? He's got a 20-pointer in him, hasn't he? It's coming.
Honestly, I've not sold him because I think like that was back then. I can't remember why I did it, but I'm sure it wasn't for a very clever reason. It was just like everyone else. I got rid of him on wildcard because I hoped that he wouldn't be back for this week. And there is obviously still a chance he doesn't start, but I think it's unlikely. I think he probably does.
Yeah. Oh no, he starts for sure. I mean, he's so important to their supply, isn't he?
And with players missing as well, they need their best players. I would have thought.
But hang on a second. So there's a lot of people in this position, right? I know it's not a wildcard question, but you've got Rudiger, Azpilicueta, Cancelo, and Laporte. You're already having to bench one this week for a lot of people. Who'd you sell?
Out of those, go over it again. Cancelo.
So double Chelsea, double City, basically. Rudiger, Azpilicueta, boring picks, I suppose. Cancelo and Laporte for Man City. Who are you selling?
It has to be one of the Chelsea.
Yeah, it's got to be Azpilicueta, I think.
I'd say Azpilicueta.
Okay. Yeah. And bench and Bromo.
Yeah, I mean, Laporte. You mentioned him there. What's interesting here that he's had a kind of shot every 45 minutes, which surprised me. His goal threat this season is far greater than Diaz. He's had 10 shots to Diaz's 2 so far this season. So I think you may have stumbled upon a bit of gold there.
Is Stones just done then?
Well, I don't know what's going on with Stones. Is he going to play in Europe, maybe midweek, and then Laporte gets the league games? I mean, this is what we're going to discover, isn't it, with this spell of Champions League rotation. We're going to see it, and we're going to hopefully establish a pattern. And Stones Laporte is one area where we hope to see that. I mean, do you fancy starts in the league, Andy?
Yeah, I do a bit. I think he started every single game he's been available for. Obviously, Stones has got minutes for England now, and maybe that will help. I'm just hoping this is one position he doesn't keep changing. But there is risk. To be honest with you, the reason I got him in is because I wanted to leave options open for getting Trent back, that I didn't necessarily just have to do it for Azpilicueta. I can actually afford to do it for Laporte or Rudiger as well. So I left my options open. But I think if I was wildcarding this week and you got the money, I think Cancelo and Diaz, you just don't give yourself the headache. I don't think Laporte having good goal threat, though, is necessarily something new. I think he's always been a bit of a threat, and I don't think Diaz is really that much of a threat anyway, not compared to like whoever plays next to him, like Laporte or Stones. So, yeah, I like him, but I think it all just depends on how many other players you put in your team like this. I think you can, if you had like James and Cancelo and Laporte, that's 3 players I don't think you can be massively confident every week is starting. Like even Cancelo, I know he started every game, but once Zinchenko's back, at some point he's going to miss out a game. It might not be too many, to be fair. I still think he's a good pick, but I think it just depends how many of these players you've got in your team at once.
Yeah, how many risks you take. Again, it was touched on in ScoutCast. I want to talk about Cucurella as he's really impressed me, and the data here shows him up. Minutes per chance created every 58.7, which is right up with the very best, right? It doesn't touch Trent, but it's up there with Creswell, it's up there with Dina. Fullbacks that we've known have been creative. Minutes per open play cross, 25.1, really high again, beating the likes of Dina. I mean, what you've seen so far, you've got to be impressed, right?
Yeah, you know when like your team makes a signing and it's like exactly what you need, and it's kind of like, why didn't we make this signing 3 years ago? It's that left wing back position has been or even left back position has been such a problem for us for so long, and he's just such a tailor-made fit to it because he's not even really a wing back. Again, he's kind of like he's a winger who's obviously been spotted to move into that kind of role, and he's absolutely fantastic because he's, we had Dan Burn there playing there before. We've had Solly March playing there, who are both good players, but that isn't they've been converted there, but haven't. I mean, they were okay, but they didn't adapt to it in the same way that Cucurella has. He's absolutely fantastic, and Veltman's on the other side playing at wing back at the moment, but has nowhere near as much attacking potential as Cucurella does. If you're looking at, if Duffy's still there at 4.3, I still think he's the one to go for. I can't see him getting dropped anytime soon with Lamptey still. It's going to be ages till we see him in the starting 11. So I still like Duffy, but if you are looking for someone a bit more exciting, then Cucurella's the one to get. It's just the fixtures, because like with Man City and Liverpool coming up in 9 and 10, I guess you could leave a spot for him in Gameweek 11 when we play Newcastle. But then it's Villa, Leeds, West Ham. I don't know. I think this is more the time to be jumping off Brighton, I think, than investing more in them.
The only thing I look at is if I don't keep Sanchez in the wildcard, I really think I hope I have the balls to go Cucurella, because he is exciting to watch. And then he's jumped up above all the other Brighton defenders for XGI here. As you see, he's ahead of Duffy, he's ahead of Veltman, certainly ahead of Dunk. So he is the flair pick, but he's that little bit more expensive.
Well, that is the thing with attacking wing backs, and it's why I like them. All those seasons ago was because almost the fixtures don't really matter too much. Because if you've actually got an attacking wing back, they attack, and it's the same what we're talking about with Trent and these guys. If they lose a clean sheet, you always think you could still get something out of it. And at 5 million, I think it's a decent price for him. So yeah, I do like him. If I saw people going with him, I'd think nice. He might be someone that I bring in after the Liverpool and City game.
The only thing is, it's the Brighton attack, and I mean, I'll go back to the team attacking data over the season. Brighton are 15th so far, and 18th over the last 4. I mean, that's the problem, isn't it? It's still the Brighton attack, and although Mope's been tucking them away much better than last season, I still question, even with Cucurella attacking as much as he does, are Brighton going to score enough goals? That's the thing.
Yeah, we're overperforming, which is complete opposite of last year. We've lost Basuma, who doesn't just do defensive duties, but wins the ball back in midfield, gets the ball up to the attackers more. I I think it's tough with the fixtures the way they are. I don't think we're going to suddenly see Brighton scoring loads and loads of goals every game.
Yeah.
So they are on a void for me. But the Norwich game looks really good. So if you're thinking of maybe not wildcarding this week and doing it next week or something like that, then a Mopé, a Trossard, or a Cucurella could be a good shout.
Yeah, I mean, going Mopé for wildcard would be a stroke of genius, I think.
Yeah, that's what I think.
Okay.
Only the real G's would do that.
Oh, of course. Let's look at midfielders now. And I think one of the things that you talked about here was the Man City mids in particular, because it's so difficult, though, isn't it? Mahrez is top in terms of this table shows minutes per XGI non-penalty. Again, it's filtered to show the players that are being discussed with wildcards at the moment, and Mahrez out on top. We know if he starts, right, and he could well start this week with Jesus unlikely to be in because he's away with Brazil. So I do think Mahrez and Torres could be starters, right, at home to Burnley, a fixture which normally they win 5-0. But could is the operative word, exactly. I'm going to pick up on what you said in your video in a minute regards to Jota and the Man City midfielders, but what's your take on the Man City midfield at the moment? I mean, would you go there with a wild card at the moment?
I probably wouldn't. It probably would be Foden, but how much of that is that he did well against Liverpool and subconsciously that's what's drawing me to him? I don't know. I honestly don't even know what to say. The answer is always the same. Yeah, whoever plays will be brilliant. They're all brilliant. There isn't, I don't really like Bernardo Silva as an FPL option, but Mahrez, Jesus, Torres, Grealish, Foden, De Bruyne, they're all really good when they play. Who's going to play? I got no idea. No idea. And like everyone's trying to kid themselves into, well, Torres has been out the team, so therefore he's going to be in it. And like for Grealish, it's like, well, he's played a lot, so he's going to be out. It's just making up rules for Pep. We know how this ends. If Foden or if Torres or if, Grealish gets like 2 of the next 3 or 3 of the next 4, they could be really good value. But the problem I have with them is so many people get them and then they get frustrated when they get benched. Like if you're gonna play like that and react badly, I don't see why you're going there. Like I've got the money to do Saka to Foden, but it does mean going without Trent, which is probably not going to happen. But I just don't know if I want the headache. Like all my midfielders are going to start every week they're fit, and that's probably enough for me. I know why people want to do it. I fully get it. Right, they're so good. They're going to probably score 5 goals against Burnley again, but how would you pick the right one?
But I would argue, right, that even if you do get the right one, if they win 5-0, I've had so many different scores this week. No one's going to hog the score, and it's not like the situation at Liverpool where it's all about Mane, Salah, Jota, or Firmino, depending on who's playing. No one scores goals from midfield behind them. Like, Henderson chips in now and again, but there's not a goal scorer outside of that front three. You look at Man City, and if they win 5-0 against Burnley, I mean, anyone could contribute to that. It's so difficult to find the player that starts and then find the player that hauls. Unless, it's De Bruyne, and no one's going to go to De Bruyne because he offers the assist as well. I don't think he's within reach of many. I mean, what's your views, Az? Because I know you're looking at a certain player here. So how have you approached it with the Burnley fixture in mind? And is it too short-termist as well? I mean, the Burnley fixture is so attractive, but long-term, do you really want a City mid?
Well, it is interesting. It's fascinating seeing everyone go back to Torres. Yeah. after 3, after an early sub in the Leicester game and then 3 non-starts, and now everyone's kind of just assuming that he's going to come straight back into the side. I mean, he's just a complete no-go for me.
Really? You feel that?
I think Torres and Mahrez will play similar minutes, and I think I'd back Mahrez to score more points than Torres going forward if they did play the same. So he's a no-go. The only two players I'm considering midfield are Grealish and Foden. Grealish has started every game and always looks great, but just isn't delivering. Foden, I think, is going to be helped by his versatility across all the different attacking positions he can play. He can drop into midfield, as we've seen with England now. He's the one that I think has the blend of someone who I think will play the majority of games, and he's going to miss one. He's going to miss your game, absolutely, but he should play the majority. But I also think he's got that upside of being able to hit big hauls, which I'm not sure Grealish has. So Foden is the one for me.
Why do you think Foden will play the majority? Because the problem we've got is like Torres did well, went missing. Mahrez last season did well, went missing. Foden, for spells last season, we were going, why isn't he playing him? Pep just seems to have this rule book that none of us can work out that governs his selections. I don't think you can say, even though he's an outstanding player, I absolutely agree with you, right? He should be playing most weeks. Well, I don't know how confident I'd be about it because
confidence is always shot with Pep. But I look at Foden at the moment, and I look at his every season he's been stepping up a gear. Right, we all thought last year he was going to become this FPL option. I think he was 6.5 million. People had him, got burnt, blah blah blah. This season though, there's no main striker, so they haven't got an Aguero figure. De Bruyne has got these injuries, might be saved the Champions League a bit more. I think he's going to be in and out of the team a little bit. Who are they really looking at in that side to get them goals? Is it Grealish? Well, Grealish is playing quite wide on the left. He might be earmarked for an 8 where he's dropping deeper and coming back. I think it's going to be Foden who's the one who operates in that way, which gets the goals for them.
But do you not think Foden is the Champions League player and Torres will play this game and next Saturday's game and Foden comes in midweek?
It could well be, but there's no reason that Foden can only play one a week, right? It would be, and also it's the group stages. Like but
just lost. They've just lost to Paris Saint-Germain, so they need the points.
They have.
They can't take any liberties with the midweek game, right? So and Foden's played twice for England. I don't think Foden starts against Burnley. I think there's doubt, right? That's the problem. Andy's in hilarious fits here for some reason.
It's just like the whole thing.
We're guessing, aren't we, right?
Yeah, exactly. We're having to have this conversation kind of tells you all. What I will say is just to throw something else in. I know Sam Lee, I think he was on a podcast.
Oh, here we go with your ITKs. Go on then.
Well, he's saying now, I see a tweet now. He's got, he's saying, I'm away. Here's one I wrote earlier on Grealish. He's had a solid start with more to come. He might drop out of the team for a bit because the squad depth's remarkable. And Foden is great.
Right.
But that's normal. So, I mean, Foden could start. I mean, the Torres stuff as well. I've seen people say, well, they've just played Chelsea and Liverpool. They didn't want a striker. They need him in the easy games. But he didn't play against Southampton either. So what is the rules? Like,
there's no rhyme or reason. When he got that haul and I missed it, I was like head in hands going, what have I done? But actually, it's turned out all right because I've got away with it because of Pep playing silly buggers with his selection, right?
Here's the thing with Man City, right? Let's say you couldn't go on Twitter, you couldn't check the team sheet, you're waiting for me to send it. I send it to you and I say Foden's not starting. You're like, well, yeah, it's Pep. Like, it's believable, right?
Yeah, of course.
So any of them can miss out. I know people want a reason to buy them, and it's because they're great if they play, and that is it. That's all you can go on.
So here's my point, right? In your video, Andy, and in other videos I've seen this week, everyone was talking down Jota because he's not nailed on.
Yeah.
And yet there's Jota, 7'6", cheaper than all the City mids.
Yeah.
Playing centre forward for Liverpool, who are the best attacking team in the league, based on the data we've seen. And he's above all the City mids in this data table. So why are we saying, oh, don't go Jota, he's not nailed on, and yet we're going, oh, maybe Foden, maybe Grealish. Well, I don't understand it.
I have seen people, I don't have Jota, but I've seen people with Jota so frustrated by him not starting, switch her into a Man City mid. I think it's hilarious. I agree.
I've seen people with Jota starting who are frustrated with him.
Well, yeah, he definitely is.
He's a very frustrating asset. Either way,
I think that just happens though, doesn't it? I feel like, you know, players go, they should score more and they don't. That just happens. I think if you keep making the right choice, it should play out over a season. I think Jota was a good buy, but I agree. I think if you're switching Jota to a Man City mid, the only real reason, I suppose, is the fixtures. Liverpool's fixtures aren't as good. And I think Liverpool might be the best attack, but I think Man City are not far behind. So, that's the only thing I can think of. And plus, it's new. It's like you said earlier, people wildcard, they want something different.
Yeah, well, that's it. That's what I always think that is it. Now, I am biased because I've got Jota, right? I just want to put that out there. But I do look at it and think, Jota isn't in the conversation. And it's because I think the Man City mids are just sexier. And it's like the chance of getting the right one and getting the haul against Burnley and all that. But I do think, I look at it and think, Jota's playing up front. And he played against Man City over Firmino. When everyone was going, oh, Firmino's going to start. He started 36 consecutive games against the top 6. No, Jota started. And it's like, for me, there's indication that Jota is first choice and Firmino will play Champions League and Jota will get the league games. There's a chance, right? So I'm going to keep him and hope that's the case. But he's not being discussed on wildcards at all. People are just going, oh, no. He's too risky. He's not nailed on.
I'm definitely not dismissing Jota at all. But I think when all you can do with this kind of Pep thing, a few people in the chat, you can frame the narrative however you want and all that. Yeah. I just think if you go with Torres and he doesn't start, you're going to be like, well, that was predictable. But if you go with Foden and he doesn't start, to me, I would be surprised given the performances that he's been putting in recently and how I think he is becoming that absolute key member of that.
But we were surprised last season,
Yeah, I know, absolutely, and it could go completely wrong like it did last season. But I think this is when he steps up. And sometimes you can't just go on analytics and stats. Sometimes you've got to use your own judgment and decide when you think something's going to happen. And he's 2.1% ownership at the moment. If he starts against Burnley and gets another big haul, he's going to rise, and I'll be there from the start. That's all you can do.
But
You've got to try and predict, right?
Is Foden even as good as Jota? Look, minutes per shot, double Jota. Minutes per shot in the box, double Jota. Why are we thinking Foden's going to be better than Jota? And he's more expensive. I just don't get why a Man City mid's being elevated up here and everyone's going, oh, Jota, forget him. I know he's injured until tonight, but even so, I do find it surprising.
The fixtures are better for Man City as well.
Yeah, there is
Liverpool have got to play Man United away, West Ham away, I think.
I don't care about Liverpool. I've seen Liverpool this season. I don't think fixtures are much of a factor. Look at the City game.
They're always a factor.
They scored 2 against the best defence in the league.
Yeah, well, that was Salah, though, not Jota.
Well, yeah, but even so, they looked decent and they had chances against City. I don't think fixtures are an issue when you're looking at the Liverpool attack. Look at that table. Mahrez, then it's Salah, Mane, Mount and Jota. So they've got 3 attackers in the top 5 for midfielders. I see. I mean,
Foden's not played very much. The only other, and one of the games he did play was Liverpool. So that's difficult anyway. And he did really well. Like I can see why people are going for Foden, but you said you'd be surprised if he got benched. Like you can't be surprised if he gets benched. It's Man City. That's the whole thing. You have to accept it when you go.
Sometimes as well, Mark. Like you look at stats. I mean, Traore is someone who always posts good stats. Jota's got 1 goal in 5. He's not. To me, he's not this elite level finisher.
No, but he's worth 7.6.
He is definitely worth 7.6. I'm not disputing that. I think he could even be higher, but I don't think it's a complete no-brainer to go without him. I don't think people are like completely dismissing him as a terrible option, but you're trying to find ways of bringing in. Like you look at City and you look at the 3 fixtures they've got, and this is a chance to potentially bring in.
None of them are going to play all 3
players around.
Yeah, but Foden's not going to play all 3. So when you look at those 3 fixtures, you really think he's going to get all 3? No, I know, but he's playing centre forward. Compared to Foden, who could be playing anywhere. He could be playing on the left, could be playing false 9.
But that helps him. That helps him with more chance of starting.
I just think when Foden's on the pitch, when Jota's on the pitch, you've got more chance of returns from Jota playing centre forward for the best attacking team. That's all. I just think.
Why don't you just all go Saka instead?
Yeah, well,
I think it's close between them. I think if you're asking me to pick who gets the most points out of Foden and Jota for the next 3,
if you flip the fixtures around, people will be going for Jota, I think.
Yeah, I mean, but I don't think fixtures for City or Liverpool, as we've seen, are relevant that much. I think they're so good that it makes no difference. I mean, Burnley does because they always beat them 5-0. But I think that's it. I think this Burnley game is making people think, I've got to get a City mid because they always win 5-0. And then they're not thinking beyond that and going, oh, but then Foden will miss the next one because he plays Champions League midweek. And, and I just think it's a bit short-termist to look at City. And yet I'm seeing lots of people just going, oh, no, don't go Jota, he's not nailed on. It's like, well, how can you say that about him?
If you were on a wild card, though, you would go for Man City.
Because it's sexier, yeah. Well, I probably would, but would that be a mistake? I'm just putting it out there that now Jota is fit. It could well be a mistake to get rid of Jota and go
ask Captain Hindsight and find out.
Well, we'll find out, won't we?
It's got a call to the future, yeah? Oh, I'm not sure yet.
Well, we'll see. We'll see what happens when Pep's team sheet comes out. But it's like Andy says, no one can complain when they get disappointed by it, I guess.
No, I do agree with that.
Let's talk Son, because I think Son, I talked about Tom Freeman's wildcard, and Son was a player that leapt out for me. One thing I've been looking at is how Son has compared this season to previous. And I mean, Spurs have been disappointing, right? At the very least, I think we can say that. But it's interesting that Son's data, I looked at his data this season compared to last, and he's actually had more touches in the box and more shots this season than he did last season. And then I looked at the last 7 last season where he flew. He got 8 goals in the first 7, I think, last season. And even compared to that, he's had more shots so far than the first 7 last season. He had a shot every 36.8 minutes in game weeks 1 to 7 last season. He's had a shot every 27.4 so far this season. He's had more touches in the box as well. Son looks to be changing as a player under Nuno, and I guess he's compensating for Kane, who's been, well, abysmal. It certainly was for England the other night. What do we think about Son? I mean, as you've just played the wildcard, did you consider him? I know it makes a big difference to the money, doesn't it? 'Cause he's 10 million, but how close were you looking at Son?
Well, the choice is Son or an expensive backline. That seems to be. I could probably afford Son if I went for some cheaper defenders, but I really like the Trent, Cancelo, Rudiger triple up in defence, and that doesn't really leave me enough money to go for it in midfield. I think he's a good pick. I just don't like Spurs at all this season. And I mean, it is interesting with Son. I think, you know, we have seen him in the past perform better with Kane not in the team, and Kane isn't really in the team at the moment because he can barely perform. So
what's going on there? It's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, his head's just not in it, I don't think. So I think obviously Son is the best option for them. I think it's a great fixture with Newcastle, and they've got all the money now, but it's still going to take them a while to adjust to that and get a new manager in and new players and new ideas and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I do really like Son for this week. I am a bit jealous of people that have got him, but I think long term, I still think the premium 3 at the back is gonna do better.
It's funny, he's the one player that got me close to playing the wildcard. If all the flags were holding, if Rudiger, Lukaku, Jota were all injured, Son was the player that was convincing me to play it, because I think that he's the one, isn't he? He could be explosive against Newcastle, and they've got a really good fixture run after that.
Yeah, from 12. I mean, they've got West Ham United and Everton after that. Again, it's the captaincy. This is one of the reasons why I'm just not really considering any other premium attackers other than Lukaku and Salah, because I just can't see myself captaining anyone else over this run. The fixture's just too good for them. They interchange nicely. If I had Son in there and I'm not captaining him, I could use that money to strengthen elsewhere, and that's where I'm going to go. And Spurs could just lose every match because they're crap.
Well, this is it. Newcastle are going to be lifted, right? That crowd's going to be mad, isn't it? Right? So they're going to be, there's going to be tea towels on their heads and everything in the crowd. They're going to be cheering. It's going to be an occasion, right? So, I mean, we saw how many were outside the ground even when the thing was announced. So in the ground, it's going to be crazy. So Spurs are going into that not with great confidence and with Kane limping around at the moment. But Son is the shining light. Well, I shouldn't have used shining when I was describing Son.
Oh, you even put a note yourself.
I know I did, and I still couldn't avoid it. But it's that run from game week 12. It's getting him in early, which is what Tom's done. And I think that could be a masterstroke, really. I mean, Andy, where are you feeling on Son?
I love the guy. Like, I just feel like ever since he's been in the league, I feel like he's always ticked over. Kane, no Kane, whatever. He's just always, when he's had minutes, he's done really well. I know early on when he first joined, he wasn't always in the team, but yeah, and that's exactly what he's done. I think he's got 5 returns, is it? I think in 6 matches. So again, he's not explosive, which is maybe why people haven't noticed him so much. I feel like if you haven't got him, there's no need to panic. If he doesn't go mad against Newcastle, then like I said, West Ham, Man United, Everton is not huge. I did look at him for game week 12, so I was thinking about you can maybe swap the Lukaku money, but I actually think I'm just going to go Lukaku to Kane.
Really, you think Kane's going to have recovered enough to?
I just think it's way too early to say that his head's completely gone. It just doesn't strike me as that kind of player that is just going to let this continue just to slide and slide and slide. I just don't think so. And those fixtures from game week 12 are about as good as it gets.
They are,
and he's on penalties as well. And last year, when they were both doing well, Kane was always the one for captaincy.
Yeah,
I just think it's an easier swap. I've got nothing against Son. I love the guy. It's just how my team's set up and how a lot of people are about to set their teams up. It's quite difficult to get to him. Whereas Lukaku is just a one swap to Kane.
And I had a look at it, and more shots and more touches in the box. I thought, well, that's because he was striker for the first 2. But I looked at the last 4, and he has kept that up over the last 4 as well. So you can't even point to the fact that Kane didn't start the first 2 for the reason why Son has stepped up in shots and touches in the box. But so I think it's worth studying to see whether under Nuno, if he's becoming a different player, if he's not out there with the chalk dust on the sideline and coming inside more.
The thing is, it's very easy to say right now, Kane's gone, we're not going to look at him. But I mean, all he has to do is score in that Everton away game, and then everyone looks at game week 12 fixtures, and suddenly he'll be in everybody's team. I think the only thing to say is if we get to that point and Kane really is looking that bad that we can't go for one of the best strikers in the world, then Lukaku to put the money into Son is 2 moves. So for those fixtures, it could still be worth it. But that's kind of, for how my team is set up anyway, I know everyone's going to be different. I think Lukaku does have to go to fund it. I just don't see how I'm getting there otherwise. And I do agree with Az. I'm not captaining a Spurs player over the next 4, so that makes me less worried about running out and getting them. Whereas game week 12, I know we're thinking quite a bit ahead, but that is an interesting week for captaincy because Spurs have Leeds at home, Man United have Watford away, and a lot of people will not have Ronaldo. And then Liverpool play Arsenal and Man City play Everton. So he could be looking at captain the Spurs player that week, I think. So Harry Kane would be a big call, but I'm not writing it off at all. I think people always do this. They write it off. It takes one goal, and suddenly then that player is essential. And even if Kane hasn't scored, I would still consider him.
It's just the way he's carrying himself on the pitch, though. And it's just the body language as well.
It's interesting as well that he goes off to England and puts in a bad performance as well. Because you'd think maybe he could go there and play with, he's away from Spurs, away from all the feelings around that. But no, it's just utter garbage in that.
He's got to go and speak to all the Man City players, hasn't he?
Well, yeah, that's true. You see how happy they are.
Rub it in.
Yeah.
Great, free in the team as well. Okay, let's look at forwards then, round up, because this is going to be the longest episode ever. It's Andy. He's just bringing that extra bit to the show. We're going to be on for more than 2 hours at this rate. But forwards, Cristiano Ronaldo dominating this data that I'm showing now. Minutes per XGI non-penalty, 82.8. Obviously, it shook us up when he was benched, right? What do we make of that? Do we think now we've got to think after a European game there's a risk, or do you think no, that's bogus? What do you reckon, Az?
Well, probably Andy's better placed to answer that than me. It almost felt to me like it was Solskjaer trying to stamp a bit of authority and say no one's safe. Ronaldo's not the boss of me. I can do what I want. A hell of a gamble, especially against Everton, who've been playing quite well, and it backfired massively. And I think Solskjaer looks worse off for having done it rather than if he just played him. So I don't know if he'd be doing it again. What do you think, Andy?
Yeah, I kind of agree. I do think as well it's a little bit of a power play. I did kind of think that at the time. Yeah, I can't imagine it's going to happen too often. I mean, he is, for a football player, he is old. I know he's in really, really great condition, like much better than, I mean, in fact, I'm nearly the same age as Ronaldo. I can tell you now he's in slightly better shape than me. But he is getting on, right? So maybe he does need the rest, but I can't see it. But I also think he's not a great option right now. And there's I think if you've got him and you're not wildcarding, you could make a case to keep him one more week. I think. I don't think Ronaldo to Lukaku is an absolute must swap this week.
No, Leicester look fragile, don't they?
Yeah, but on wildcard, fixtures do matter, and Man United's fixtures are awful. You ain't captain them. I don't buy the fixture-proof stuff that people keep going on about. It's just that Watford game, I suppose, is the only one. But the hope for me would be that so many people have got rid of him, he won't be as much of an issue.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't see him getting benched that often. I think it was a big call to make. And I think once you don't win the game, it makes that call look way worse. If Man United go and win that 3-0, then Solskjaer looks like a genius and you can kind of give him a bit of credit for it. But when you bench one of your best players...
in a team that's not playing particularly well anyway, to bench your best player like that was
possibly because of Ronaldo.
Just so much faith in Martial. I know he scored, but how can he just can't keep sticking with him. He's not good enough.
But the thing is, like I said, though, Cavani, Martial, they're not going to go quietly. They're not going to go, all right, boss, I'll just sit on the bench forever. So what do? You can't play Ronaldo and Cavani, can you? One of them's going to play centre forward. Ronaldo's not going to play wide in his stage in his career, I don't think. I just don't see it. And anyway, you've got other options out wide as well. I just think it's difficult for Ollie at the moment with those options available. And they're out of the League Cup. That didn't help either. And he hasn't got pens either. So I think it was a power play. It's like, you're not taking pens and I'm going to rest you when I tell you to. It's like, okay.
And I'm not actually...
How's that worked out?
The fact that Bruno took the penalty, I wasn't surprised at all. I also think he will get... I know he said actually, didn't he, that he was on pens for that last game. I think Jules asked him.
Yeah.
I actually think he probably will keep... I don't buy this. They're deciding every game. I think Bruno's probably got them. But so if Bruno... Let's say we get 2 penalties in this bad fixture run and Bruno takes them both, and suddenly we get to the game week 15, really great fixture run. Is Ronaldo even in the conversation anymore? Like, Bruno could be the one to get. He's going to play every week. He's going to play 90 minutes.
Yeah.
He's got... think about it. At the start of this season, Bruno was essential because he had penalties. Ronaldo comes. Everyone thinks he takes them off. He possibly hasn't. And therefore, Bruno is just as good as he was last year, really. I know Ronaldo's taken a lot of shots.
He could be even better, arguably, because the biggest creator for Ronaldo is probably Bruno, right? So
I think Ronaldo's really... I don't think it's difficult to get rid of him, but I think around game week 12 for that captaincy option and then game week 15, I know we're talking a long time ahead yet, but yeah, it's going to be divisive, I think.
Okay. I think Ronaldo takes the next pen.
Cool.
I think Bruno gets a chance to redeem himself.
Antonio, do we get rid or not? What do you think about this? I mean, look at the data. He's second to Ronaldo for minutes per XGI non-penalty, 114.8. His statistics have been amazing for a year now, haven't they, from last season to this? But obviously the fixtures are tough, and West Ham's schedule is tough as well. Just bringing this up on screen now, the fixtures and also their schedule. What complicates things is they beat United in the EFL Cup and now play City as well in that. So they've got 2 or 3 days between matches after the Everton game. But with the wild card, did you think about getting Antonio out?
No way.
Right.
No way. I mean, Benrahma and Soufal were, they were gone straight away. But Antonio, it's just ridiculous. I mean, he's 8 million. He's such good value for that. The thing is, there's not really any other strikers that I particularly want. I mean, my dream striker is as we're going to mention, is there? I mean, Neil Maupay's in my team at the moment, so they can't be that many.
Don't give it away. That was for finale.
Oh yes. Well, I think you've hinted enough.
Yeah, I have. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, who are the strikers that you consider?
Yeah, go on then, Andy. Go on. Who have you got?
Well, there's Jimenez, Hwang, Lukaku obviously has to be in there as well. Tony for sure, Armstrong possibly. No, I think Antonio is such.
But over Antonio, like Hwang
with the
over
fixtures,
Antonio.
Not Hwang. I think that's a bit of a punt, and I don't know if I would go there. I'm sure we're going to talk about that in a sec. I think Antonio is such a ballsy call if you get rid of him, but that is a fairly bad set of fixtures. Like the Liverpool, Wolves away, Man City away, Brighton at home, Chelsea at home. That's pretty bad. Is it like you're literally playing the 3 worst teams: Liverpool, Chelsea, Man City, in the space of 5 games? And by the way, I should say I've got him, and right now I'm not looking to get rid. But it was much harder for me to do it because he had Brentford at home last week. I do think there's a decision to be made. I think you could get away with it. The problem is, if he scores against Everton and Villa and maybe even Spurs, his price keeps rising and you look like an idiot.
But I'll give you this. He scored at the Etihad last season. He scored at Anfield a couple of seasons back.
He's great.
He does it, doesn't he? He can do it.
It's a perfect example of trying to be too clever, getting rid of Antonio for me. He's just gonna keep scoring goals. His stats are perfect. West Ham are playing good football. He'll get rest in Europe.
That's key, isn't it? That's key.
If he gets rest in Europe, that's a big help, yeah, for sure.
That is key, because looking at this schedule, it is punishing. And I do wonder whether West Ham as a team will suffer, because other teams have with the Europa Cup, Europa League. So I've got an eye on it, but I think it's a big call to get rid of Antonio. I mean, let's go back to the Falls and have a look. Jimenez versus Hwang, then, that was another thing you brought up. I just don't... Jimenez, 1 goal a game, plus bonus if you... I just don't... he's not sexy enough for me, Jimenez. Well, Antonio's got double figures in him, hasn't he, basically? And he's proved it. That's the thing.
Not with the fixtures he's got coming up.
Well, I would still favour Antonio, I would still favour Antonio over any of these, to be honest. I mean, what's your feeling about Jimenez? Because he's not... I mean, he's in this table. He's 18th for minutes per XGI non-penalty. None of his data is highlighted, so he's not in the top 5 for any of these in terms of minutes per shot in the box, minutes per big chance. And considering Wolves have started like a train in attacking terms as well, his data isn't that great. We know in previous season he's been a reliable scorer but never gets hauls. Why are you so enamoured by Jimenez?
Well, first of all, I think their fixtures start of the season weren't great. Like the first 3 anyway. Obviously, since then they've had decent ones. He did blank against Watford and Brentford, but I think and I'm not saying Jimenez over Antonio when I say this, but there's a lot to like about him. The fact that he starts every game. You're never worried about him being on the team sheet. He is on penalties as well, and he always plays 90 minutes. So even if you look at like expected goal involvement per 90 and stuff like that, a lot of people look at that for every player, but they never put into context the fact that not every player plays 90 minutes. So you have to drop it down a bit. With Jimenez, he always plays 90 minutes. You're never worried about him starting. And the fixtures are also really good. Like Villa, I know the only thing that kind of worries me a little bit is there's a lot of away games in there. But Villa, Leeds, Everton, Palace, West Ham, and West Ham's obviously difficult. Norwich, Burnley. Like if he keeps ticking over up until game week 14, I don't care if it's 7, 8, 9 points. Like I don't need explosive returns. I just need consistent returns for 7.5. I'm never going to captain him anyway. So I think he's a good pick. I do know why people are going for Hwang. They think he's going to be the goal scorer. And obviously he's 2 million cheaper nearly. So that is a big
thing.
Great
name as well.
Great name, yeah. I actually like that punt. The only worry is if it doesn't go well or if he starts getting benched again, where do you go? Because there's not really any other players around that price point. But if it pays off for you, honestly, it's such a good punt. And I do think I actually don't think he's going to get benched over the next few. I don't really.
Is he away with Mexico at the moment? They're playing El Salvador tonight, aren't they?
Jimenez is, but I think they already. I'm sure they tweeted before the international break was that he'd be available for this next game.
He plays tomorrow, I think, for Mexico,
Right.
but he is available.
Right.
They did tweet to say he'd be available.
Okay.
Maybe things changed.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
Oh God, don't start with that.
Also on here, we talked about Tony and Armstrong. I mean, neither of them show up well for data-wise, but I think the fear with Tony, I really like Tony and I think, when I do play the wildcard, I am tempted to double up on Brentford. I think the fear is that he is coming deep and putting Mbeumo in, who's running beyond him. Did you consider Tony at all, as?
Yeah, well, yeah, Tony will be coming in for me. I mean,
right, you'll have him, right? Okay.
Probably not this week, but I'll definitely be looking to get him in for the run. I think we could see him being used more in the box than we've seen previously, given the fixture turn nice. So he doesn't need to be that link-up player so much, although he's working quite well for them. He's been brilliant. He's kind of been as good as I thought he would be, but in a completely different way to how I thought they'd use him, which is really interesting. I really like Tony. Bit of a price. I mean, his price went up, but he was down to 6.3 at one point. Now up to 6.4, and it's a bit like Jimenez. I kind of feel like he could get points from more unlikely sources. Like I didn't expect Jimenez to turn into a bit of a provider who can, he can tick over some 5-6 points when he gets the assist, and I think Tony can do that as well. So I really like him at 6.4. I think he's a great pick.
What about Vardy and Calvert-Lewin, Andy? Because those two are largely overlooked. And we know they've got quality. Data-wise, Calvert-Lewin shows up really strongly here. Vardy's been strong returns recently. What were your thoughts on them?
I think on I feel like the boat has been missed on Vardy. I think I know he's about to play Man United without Varane and without Maguire, so it's not really the worst time to bring in a player playing Man United. But then Arsenal and Chelsea are also in the next 5, and the two easier games, Brentford and Leeds, are both away. He will probably tick over. I just think to get Vardy in without hurting the rest of your team, you've got to make a decision on Salah and Lukaku, and I just feel like they're non-negotiable for me. It's just, this happens in FPL that you just get trapped in the certain structure, and sometimes you miss out on really good players, and I feel like Vardy's one of them. Like, again, I've got it in Sky, I've got Vardy because it just works differently there, but in FPL, I just don't really have a plan to get him in at all.
I guess the other thing is we feel he can't hurt us, right? Because he's not highly owned.
Yeah.
So.
Well, there probably is a bit of that subconscious.
Effective ownership, have you heard of that? It's like,
no, I don't know much about
that. The 10.5 is just a lot of money. Like it's not. I mean, it's the same price as Son as well, almost.
But also Leicester have been rubbish. Like Vardy has been doing well and getting points, but it's hard to pray.
When is he going to slow down? Honestly. Like he's not like I was looking at like his expected goal involvement numbers, and they're basically just as good as last year. He's just going nowhere. Like age has not crept up on him yet. I really like him. I'd never like bringing in a player to play Man United, and then they've also got to play Arsenal, Chelsea. I just think the goals might slow down a little bit. I just think 10.5 is too expensive. And I think if the decision is Vardy or Lukaku, then for me,
that's it. We're locked into Lukaku, aren't we?
Yeah.
As you were going to say there.
I was going to say, it's hard to bring in a premium player when they're playing for a team that is playing like a mid-table or bottom team. Like it's, we've had it with Aubameyang in the past, like wanting him to do well, but Arsenal have just been rubbish and he hasn't been performing. Like it's not. I just wonder how much can Vardy keep dragging them through in these performances, because they're just not good. There's something not quite right about Leicester this season, and until that changes, I won't be considering him. Yeah,
looking at their attacking data, they had the 7th best fixtures going into the first 7 games, and they ranked 10th mid-table. Minutes per shot 9.5. It's one of the worst. It's down there with Spurs, Watford, and Norwich. Right, Spurs are in there on 9.6. So yeah, I mean, I think I watched Leicester, and I just don't trust them. They can have poor games where they struggle to create opportunities, but Vardy just always seems to find a way, doesn't he? That's the thing. That's what's encouraging with him. And if you've gone with him, and Karam did on the ScoutCasters, and it's paid dividends, but I think we're locked into Salah and Lukaku as the 2 heavy hitters, and Son would be the one over Vardy that I would prioritise if I was going to go for a kind of semi-third, which I think...
There's only one game I like in the next 5 for them, which is Leeds away. The rest... How much damage is he going to do? Surely.
Yeah. I mean, if you look a bit like longer term, if you go like all the way up to game week 16, then you start adding in like Watford at home, Southampton away, Newcastle at home. But it's a long time to keep someone who's 10.5, who I don't think at any point in that stretch you will captain.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how far ahead I've looked, but like game week 13, he plays Watford at home. Salah plays Southampton at home. So I'm never going to back Vardy over Salah in a similar fixture. You could say Leicester's fixture is slightly better, but Salah and Liverpool are also better than Leicester. So Yeah, I just don't see a place for him.
Calvert-Lewin, is he going to come back into our thinking as?
Yeah, I think he could do massively. I think, I've been so impressed with Everton, without Richarlison and Calvert-Lewin and players stepping up like Townsend and Damari Gray, who I just didn't think. And it coincides with Dean being really poor as well, who's one of their best players. And yet they're still getting results, putting in good performances. They were great against United. And I think when Calvert-Lewin comes in and he displaces Rondon, which he obviously will, and becomes that kind of central point of all their crosses and play, I think we're going to have to consider him.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the fixtures coming up. And they haven't got a bad run. Let's look at the longer ticker actually on Everton and see where they rank. Fixtures. I mean, they've got some difficult games. They've got City, Liverpool, and Chelsea in before game week 20. So it's a kind of mixed bag, isn't it, for them? But Calvert-Lewin's a player who can do it. Like Antonio, I think if he gets a supply, he can do it against anyone, right?
Yeah, I think he could be the one that maybe Antonio, if you were looking for someone a bit different, you could move out to. But he's got the injuries. I want to see him come back into the side, and he's had these niggles, isn't he? So it might take him a few weeks to get back up to speed and all that. But I definitely think when he's up and running, he won't be like Jimenez or Tony dropping deep and creating things. He's going to be right at the forefront, banging in the goals. So yeah, I do like him.
Okay, we'll quickly look at a wildcard team that I put together before we get to Az's later. And this is, I honestly put hand on heart and thought, right, okay, if I played the wildcard, what would I get? And this is what I come up with. I could get Ramsdale in goal, but Sanchez, it's very tight between the two of them. I like the fact that Steele could be the reserve keeper.
To mine.
So it's Sanchez, Trent, Rudiger, Cancelo with Duffy and Livramento on the bench. And then the midfield of Salah, Son, Rafinha, Smith-Rowe and Bomo. And I kept Antonio and Lukaku. So this is a total of 5 players changed from my existing team. And 2 of those are Duffy and Livramento. So that's why I'm not playing it. I just don't see... Son is the one that, Jota to Son could really work out. If I had, if I played the wildcard and went that move, I think it could do well at Newcastle. But...
Yeah, but the thing is, if Jota plays against Watford, it's just as good as Son against Newcastle. So I don't think that's a big issue, really, to be honest.
So when I looked at this and thought, I could make more changes. I could go Ramsdale instead of Sanchez. I could go Antonio out for Tony and get Wang. But, they're not moves that are sure to pay off. And then I'm making those moves just to justify the wild card. So it's very interesting that I looked at this and went, there's only 5 changes here.
Well,
you've got 11, right?
It's interesting in some ways, but also this has been your tactics to not play the wildcard this week. Like you deliberately went for Chelsea early. You went for Lukaku over Ronaldo. You've brought in players like Mbeumo.
That's what I was saying earlier. You always plan differently if you've used it or not.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I've just realised we're going to do the predictions next, but I haven't updated the fixtures with our scores. So we're going to have to do that on Twitter. We're going to have to tweet them out rather than do them in the show, unfortunately, because I forgot to update that before the show. All the excitement of being early for this. But that's okay. We're running low on time anyway. We're going to run over, so we're going to get to Az's wildcard. So what we'll do, this is the current standing in the predictions, though. I'm not going to rob you of your moment of glory, Az. This is it. Look at this. You're beating me hands down. And interesting, the only one I'm beating you on is the clean sheets, which you were better at last season. It's been a complete role reversal.
Yep. But we're still around the 50% mark. And I've always said, as long as we're getting 50% of the outcomes right, that's got to be better than Mark Lawrenson. Yeah,
no, you have done very well. So apologies to Andy and Az, you gave me your predictions, but I forgot to update the screen. I've just remembered. So we will tweet those out. So
I didn't fill it all in anyway. I don't think I have to.
Well, there you go. So we'll stick them out on Twitter, and Pot Noodle can get them from there. They won't be on the podcast. They won't be in the show, but you can go on Twitter and get them. For now, then, we'll look at the captain matrix and talk about the captain conversation. And this is what you're talking about, not going Vardy. We're locked into Lukaku because of this, right? Look at game week 9, 10, and 11. And Lukaku's kind of the perma captain, even against a backdrop where Salah is king at the moment. But do we think it's Salah over Lukaku this week and then Lukaku from that point on? What do you reckon, Andy?
This week, the conversation takes about 2 seconds. It's definitely Salah, I think, by quite a way, I would say, actually, of Lukaku. I think game week 10, I think right now, if I had to pick, I'd probably go Salah.
Would you, at home to Brighton?
Yeah, I think, look, Brighton defence is good, but the Liverpool attack is just so good. And Salah is obviously just Salah. So at Anfield, I think it's like, I know they were crazy talking, but there's like people saying to me, like, could you bench Salah against Man City? I'm like, look, you might not captain him because it's Man City, but he's still at home. This is Mo Salah, and Brighton are, not as good as Man City, even though they are decent themselves. So yeah, I think that's the only one. I think game week 9 definitely Lukaku. I don't think I'll change my mind on that. Game week 11, I think same. Yeah, I think I'll probably captain Lukaku against Burnley at home. So yeah, Salah Lukaku for me, I think.
And then Ronaldo back in the equation for Watford away, but arguably Salah at home to Arsenal.
Leeds.
Yeah, it's Kane or Son, isn't it? If you can, I mean, that's what I'm looking at and thinking if I can wildcard ahead of that and get one of them and they come in. But it depends how I'm feeling about Spurs. That's the thing. Any comments on this, Az? I mean, it's Lukaku all the way after this week, right?
Yeah, not really. I mean, I like a differential captain every now and then, especially when someone's going to be so overwhelmingly favoured like Salah is. But you've got the most informed player in the league, highest point scorer, playing for the most attacking side against one of the worst teams in the league with a new manager. And on top of that, there isn't really the only other standout fixture, I think, is Man City v Burnley. I think all the other games are actually quite hard to call this week. We've got some derbies thrown in there. We've got some, West Ham v Everton, for example, is going to be a close game. There's no kind of, apart from those two fixtures, I can't see any ones that I would bank on a heavy win for a side and loads of points for a player. So it's Salah 100%.
Well, here is the data behind this week's, and Watford show up as defensively they're not the worst defence on offer amongst the captain candidates this week. That is Newcastle, but you're not going to go Son or Kane, I don't think, unless you're really maverick in that. Burnley are next, but again, Torres, is he going to start? It's getting that starter in place, so you're not going to back against the Burnley, despite City's regular. I think they've beaten them 5-0 the last 4 times in all competitions. I mean, Watford show enough there. Their defence isn't the worst on show here, but what's significant is they've had the best fixtures. Exactly. So their defensive data isn't that bad, but it is when you consider they've had the easiest fixtures to this point, which when you couple that with Salah's form and Liverpool's attack, it decides for us, doesn't it, Andy?
Yeah, I mean, check the defensive data again after they play Liverpool, and I reckon it'll probably look a bit different to that. So yeah, it's not a debate really, is it? It has to be Salah this week. I don't. Yeah, no doubt.
I do make a case that Brentford will attack Chelsea and will leave openings for them on the break. So Lukaku could do well anyway, and he could prove us wrong. But I just think betting against Salah's too dangerous, right?
I did see someone with a Cancelo captain.
Really?
And I did think you're almost certain to get a clean sheet there. And if City do rack up a 4 or 5-0 win, I wouldn't be too surprised.
Does he start for sure? Zinchenko's fit, right? Isn't he?
I'd say he starts. He's too important.
I just think you have to pick your weeks when you make moves like that. And Salah versus Watford is just not a fight. I know. I just say it for everyone else. It's just not a fight to have.
No, it's not a hill you want to die on, is it?
No.
Okay. There it is then, as is wildcard. Let's have a look at it. Talk us through it then, Az, from start to finish, where you're at the moment.
Well, I'm afraid it's not the most exciting wildcard ever, but I can hand on heart say that last week I pretty much put this together without looking at anything on Twitter, what anyone else is doing, and it's just kind of turned out to be pretty similar to everyone else. So it's Ramsdale in goal, Trent, Rudiger and Cancelo, Salah, Rafinha, Foden, Smith Rowe, Mope, I think we might talk about him, Antonio, Lukaku, and then Foster, Embremo, Livramento, and Rico Henry in defence. And what I did was I used the Scout transfer planner and I just looked to see where I might have some weaknesses, where I might want to have some players coming in and out. And Brentford's fixtures are good, and I thought, going for the wing back in that system is a fairly decent idea. Pinnock was someone else that I considered as well, but he can come in and cover some of the rougher games for Rudiger and Cancelo if I need them for whatever reason. But it's a strong squad, right? Like I haven't got a Parika in there. I haven't got any fodder really.
All right, pick on Parika.
There is no way you're going to have more pay in your final wild.
Oh, I reckon he will. He's done this before, Andy.
He's literally going to. It's literally Man City and Liverpool straight after.
Well, the Mopay thinking is that I could go for Tony, but he's got Chelsea, or I go for Mopay versus Norwich and then move him for Tony next week. That's the thinking.
You're booking a transfer in, aren't you?
Yeah, straight away.
That's all right. I'm not against that, to be honest. I mean, you've got transfers to use.
The thing as well is that I've got the squad to be able to handle it if I need to do another move somewhere else for injury.
Foden's rotation risk. I mean, is Smith Rowe even nailed?
Well, what I would say, right, let me have a go first, Andy. I'm not going to do a Joe on you, Az, don't worry. It's not going to be that severe. But I will say you're going into this week, which is the one immediately after your wildcard, with Rafinha may not play, Foden may not play, Rudiger we haven't heard yet, right? So you've got you're going in with Livramento might end up in your first 11 which isn't ideal, is it? Off the back of a wild card, so you're not worried you got a risk too many there.
Well, I mean, we're going to know, aren't we? We're going to know about Rudiger and Lukaku.
We hope, yeah.
We're going to get, they're fine, it's an international thing, blah, blah, blah. Rafinha as well. Like, Rafinha isn't someone that I'm massively excited about, and I could move him down to someone like Townsend, for example. Because, I mean, Everton have got Watford next week.
Townsend instead of Rafinha.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that. I think Rafinha's a good tech long term.
Townsend's in the dream team. He's one of the top scoring players.
He's not on pens long term, is he? And
I really think Townsend owners are going to get found out soon.
I don't know. You know, I mean, you could go for Damari
all 10
Gray.
of them, yeah.
Gray's heat map does indicate that he's in the more attacking option. I think, but when Townsend's got Calvert-Lewin to aim at, I don't think it necessarily makes him a much worse an option.
Yeah, I think Rafinha's chances of playing Southampton are pretty slim. Looking at the dates and times.
He's going to start as well, isn't he? That's the kicker. He's done so well. They're going to apparently start him in the last game. Yeah.
Yeah, for Brazil, he's not going to not start. Yeah, so I can't see him playing it. But Mbomo's not a bad player to come on, right? So you're okay there. It's just whether Foden will get minutes though. He'll come on if he doesn't start, right? So I think he'll be all right. It's just, it's not ideal with the wild card. You've still got flags and you've still got doubts, right? But I think it's a strong enough team. I mean, Mopé could be a masterstroke, right? He's done well this season. 4 goals in 7.
Could be. Yeah.
I didn't think I'd ever say that. You should sample that.
If it wasn't Norwich, I wouldn't be going for it. But any striker playing Norwich, especially for a Brighton team who have been doing quite well this season, I don't think it's necessarily that bad a shout. Just for a 1 week roll of the dice.
I just want to say Garav in chat has given you 10 quid to drown your sorrows immediately. Right, so he's already preempting you're going to need a drink at the end of this weekend.
And James says at least Maddison's not in there. So
yeah, that is true. I mean, surely you couldn't find him. He's not even getting in the Leicester team at the moment, so you'd struggle, wouldn't you? To be fair, no, okay. I mean, yeah, I mean, I prefer Smith Rowe to Saka, to be honest, Andy. I know you're saying he's not now, and I think probably, with Pepe on the bench, and if Pepe gets starts, it probably is Smith Rowe that makes way. But again, is Odegaard taken off at Brighton? I don't know.
There's a big price difference as well.
Yeah, I like Smith Rowe a lot. I mean, certainly if I was wildcarding this week, he'd be in mine. Yeah, I think he's more integral than Odegaard in a way, the way he's playing at the moment. So I like that.
He's actually demonstrating some leadership as well, which is something they've lacked for years. Having a couple of players in the team who can actually galvanise the team a little bit. I think he can't really be overlooked. I think he's class. I think Smith Rowe and Saka, I really like them both. Does
Morpay have? What's the penalty situation at Brighton? Does Morpay have them back now?
Yeah,
it's great. Yeah, that's definite, right? It was Gross on the. I don't even know what happened there. I feel like Gross had him last year, didn't he?
Yeah, I'm not really sure. I would imagine Mopé would take them, given his confidence is high and things. And
I feel like I know it's a 1 week punt. I get it, but like if you went for someone like Armstrong instead,
I don't want. Why'd you keep going on about Armstrong?
Armstrong, right?
Come on, you go for more pay. Come on.
Mopé is Leeds ahead of Armstrong this week. Come on.
Well, he's got Leeds at home. You're telling me that's much worse than
he's got Leeds at home. Let's go back to the Forwards Day, because what I'll pick out for Armstrong, his conversion rate 4.8. It's the worst. It's even worse than Bamford. Yeah, he has plenty of shots. Yeah, it could only go up, but to be fair, he's had lots of shots, which is catching the eye.
The reasoning is,
it's not necessarily.
The thing is, if you get stuck where you need to make a different transfer next week, then Armstrong's got Burnley, then Watford, then Villa, then Norwich.
If you get stuck,
you've got Liverpool and Man City.
But is Az going to get stuck? Is he going to get?
Of course he is. Something always comes up.
I did say this could end in tears, as I did say, like red card after 10 minutes.
Mopé can be benched if something else happens, because I've got Livramento with good fixtures and Henry's fixtures turn. I haven't got to play.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
Unless I get multiple injuries in 1 week, which is, I wouldn't rule it out. But, this is what I mean. I haven't got any real weak players in this team. I like the fact that I've got a bit of a squad, because it covers the likes of Foden if he doesn't play. It lets me book in a transfer potentially if I need it. And the rest of the squad is solid.
Okay. I mean, you talked about going two City defenders. Are you still debating that then before the deadline?
The only way I'd do that would be if I went for the back, because I definitely want Trent and Rudiger and Cancelo. So I could, if there's doubts around Rafinha, maybe it wouldn't be Townsend I went to. Maybe it would be Diaz, for example. But then I'm kind of locked into 4 at the back, and I'm not sure I really want that going forward.
Yeah,
so
I'm already not liking it in my.
Yeah, I don't think so. I just prefer the structure of 3-4-3. I just while there are some strikers to consider, I like having 3 forwards because it means you don't get stuck with a 4.5 Damon Scarlett or someone like that.
Well, you got until the very last minute, as Andy showed, to change this, and don't think because you've shown it on the stream you can't change your mind, right? So it's
You're
totally fine.
captain.
Well, yeah, no, maybe not.
Shut you both.
You just can't. I'd say he's got a red card on him, or he misses a penalty because Krul's great at saving pens. Something's going to go wrong for you.
Well,
I think
it's got a hat trick.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, logically, it does look a good pick, but I just think it's Mopé and it's you, and he's going to go wrong. Isn't it?
He does have a history of failing. I mean, that was the thing on my last. Oh, this is deja vu from the last Wildcard stream, isn't it? Because I put Mopé in, you both slated me for it. Yeah, I had Mopé and you both slated me. He had a great run of fixtures. He blanked in every one. I couldn't get rid of him.
Yeah, well, lesson learned. That's just
I
what
seem to remember there was
BlackBox is all
something else
about,
big.
right?
There was something else big, like Fernandes. Like you weren't going Fernandes or something.
It was double Spurs. I wasn't going with when everyone was Kane and Son.
Oh yeah.
How did that go?
Turned out bad too.
It went really well. Yeah.
Well, let's not dwell on what went bad. Let's talk about my flag fest.
Week.
Yeah, flag fest of a team. So I'm currently going. It's got better tonight, right? So I'm going with Sanchez, Veltman, Trent, Rudiger, and Mbomo, Salah, Jota, Sarr, Benrahma, Antonio Lukaku, Alonso, and Shaw on the bench. The one transfer I'm probably going to make is Shaw or Alonso to Cancelo, and then it'll be Veltman probably dropping to the bench depending what happened with Rudiger. This has got a lot better tonight with news that Trent and Jota are likely to play from official Liverpool shoes. So I think, I was tempted by the wild card if Jota was out, if Lukaku was out, if Trent was out, but slowly but surely those doubts are evaporating. And like you say, I think Rudiger and Lukaku will be fine. So I'm actually happy with this now. I mean, obviously Sarr and Benrahma, not great fixtures, but you just never know with them. They're decent players, aren't they? So, I think anything could happen with them. And I could even play Veltman over one of them yet and play 4 at the back. I haven't decided, but I'm all right with this. Thoughts on this, Andy?
Yeah, I think it looks all right. I'm trying to think about what major players you're missing. I guess Chelsea, a Man City defender, but I mean
that's coming in.
Away.
That's coming in. With
oh,
my
sorry.
transfer. Yeah,
sorry.
So Alonso or Shaw.
Even so, like having Norwich away.
Yeah, I do wonder.
Not that bad, is it?
No, I wonder about playing Veltman over perhaps a Sarr or Benrahma, but I want to play the attacker really.
Yeah. No, I think it looks all right. To be honest, don't really see too many issues.
Az, do you want to get your own back with this? There's no Mopé to pick on, but go ahead.
I mean, it's all right. I mean,
it's
you've got double West Ham, which I didn't want. You've got Sarr in there, who's probably not going to get many points. You've got Mbomo versus Chelsea, he's probably not going to get many points.
Hold on, you'll have Mbomo versus Chelsea when Rafinha doesn't turn up as well as Livramento when Folk doesn't.
I remember when Townsend bangs in a hat trick.
No, I think I don't know. I think the thing about Sarr is, like we said earlier, there's no Alisson, there's no Fabinho, right? So I just think there could be a goal in it for Watford.
The trouble is that there's a lot of players in your team that I don't really like. Like, I don't particularly like the Brighton double up. I don't like Sarr going forward. I don't like Benrahma. I don't really like Alonso too much. Shaw's there, Parika. You've got no depth.
But it's not a wild card, is it? And once Shaw Alonso goes to Cancelo, I mean, you say I've got no depth because I've got one player that's not playing, like the third sub.
Oh, so Shaw's going up to Cancelo.
Yeah. So then Cancelo comes in.
Yeah, that's a good move.
And then I've got Veltman and Alonso, and then what do I do with Alonso? Is whether or not I get rid, which I probably will eventually. But
to be fair, Shaw to Cancelo does
makes a difference.
Things.
Yeah. So I've got 1.3 in the bank, so I can do that easy enough. And then next week I've got to start looking at Sarr or Benrahma, I guess, or Alonso as I build up to the wild card. So I'm all right with that. A lot better now. Jota's likely to get some. I don't think he'll start unless Mane doesn't play, because Mane is back later than Jota, because Jota's been back early. So Mane could get rested with Atletico in midweek because they got Atletico Tuesday. So my theory is that Jota might start with Firmino. But if not, he'll get half an hour because they're going to rest somebody because they got Atletico, right? So
not too bad. Sorry if you mentioned this, but are you not tempted just to start Alonso?
It is tempting because I'm thinking that he might start because of the height. I don't know.
Just a cameo, isn't it?
Yeah, I just worry that he might come off the bench. But I think there is a good chance. It's 50-50 that he starts, I think. Everyone's going to presume
Chilwell didn't
Chilwell
play the
start.
last England game either.
No, he didn't.
So,
and
so the
Alonso
chances are
played
if he
both.
does start, Alonso wouldn't probably come off the bench.
True. Yeah, true. And Alonso did start both for Spain. But I just think Alonso's height at set pieces could be something that Tuchel looks at. But I don't know. It is tempting because what a differential he could be.
Imagine Alonso getting 20 points.
Yeah. Imagine how sick I'll be if he does start and then, yeah.
Yeah.
General consensus from the chat, Mark, is you should wildcard.
Wildcard? Well, I don't see it. As I said, I showed you the wildcard team. 5 changes.
I'm just saying, Relic returns, Nisto Percy, Mikel Tiwi, Eskimo, also wildcard.
Well, we'll see. I mean, I don't see the problems there.
Kamsi.
Unless you're absolutely convinced that West Ham can't score at Everton, and obviously Sarr's a weak point, but I don't see anything else there wrong. Unless obviously Lukaku and Rudiger are not fit, but you've got that problem as well. I think that'd be fine. No, it's not a wildcard. It's not enough for me to wildcard.
It'll never be enough though. That's the thing.
That's the worry. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
That's what I found last year.
It'll never be enough.
I took hits.
Dramatic.
I took hits to improve the team, and then I never wanted to wildcard. So I'm doing it all over again, aren't I? What am I doing? Same mistakes again. What's the point of this show, Az? Who said that? Oh, it's crazy. Some of the reactions are crazy.
I get that all the time.
I know you do, yeah, from about 8,000 people in the chat. But yeah, we'll see then. We'll see. We'll see. We'll look back on it. Andy, this is what you're going with. Do you want to talk us through it for the podcast?
Yeah, so Ramsdale in goal, Azpilicueta, Cancelo, Laporte. I'm starting right now. I'm benching Rudiger for Mbeumo. I don't know what to do there. I'm tempted just to play the double Chelsea defence because obviously the upside is bigger, but I kind of want to hedge my bet a little bit. It's because it's away.
A tricky one.
Brentford score. I think Brentford score.
Yeah. So I might bench Rudiger and play Azpilicueta and hope that Reece James isn't back. I got Saka, no issues with him starting, I don't think, unlike Foden and Jota and co. Rafinha, who might not play, in which case Rudiger's going to come on anyway.
Solves your problem, yeah.
Yeah. Salah, captain, obviously. Jimenez, who's one of the best forward picks in the game at the moment. Antonio and Lukaku up front. I guess the one thing is I've got money in the bank. I can't remember exactly how much it is, but it's enough to get rid of any of my Chelsea or Man City defenders to get Trent. So I'm tempted to do that. It's just I feel like it just gives me a bit of a headache. I've got 2.1 in the bank, so I could do second to Foden, but I'm not going to do that. I don't think. So yeah, I can do Rudiger straight up to Trent, and maybe then I would bench Mbeumo, or just bench Azpilicueta. I don't know. I feel like I need to know that Trent is starting. I know him and Jota.
Surely, isn't he?
Is he that him and Jota are available? Does that mean they definitely start?
He'll start.
He probably will, but I think when I've got a team like that,
such a non-owner, Mark.
I almost want to make. No, I think he probably will start.
That's where I put my money. They're not going to throw him into Atletico without getting some minutes against Watford.
No, probably not. Probably not. But like when you got this team, you always want to know for sure, right? Because if he doesn't, that's a bit annoying, especially when they've got Man United away up next. So I don't need to make a transfer. I think, but I do have the money for Trent. So if I know he's starting, I don't think I can go into it without him against Watford.
Are the comments saying they wildcard that as well? Yeah, look, Andy, Stefan says, play the wildcard brutal team. Quite right, yeah. That's a very sane reaction to Andy's team, I'd like to say.
Need to get more paying.
Let's look at the BlackBox Leagues, because Hayden Neal's 4th in the world. He's doing well, isn't he?
Wow.
But we're not in the top 5 leagues anymore, Az.
Where's Slippers? He's top.
He's top, yeah, absolutely. Ridiculous, isn't it? Why did
Ben
we bring
Foster
him on?
second as well.
Him and his mate, Hurston second. Your football friend, Andy. Yeah. Like to see it, don't we?
That really hurts.
It does hurt. But we'll get back in the top 5. You watch us, Andy. But yeah, the top 5 in our league are Hayden Neal on 552, 4th in the world. Alex Watson, 540. I think he's 22nd. Ryan Mackey, 537 in 3rd. And Sid Kadam, 534. And Obey Id is on 533. That's the top 5. We've got to do more with the apprentices. We've neglected them. We've cut them loose, as we've got to do more. We've got to get in touch with Natalie and Henry and pep their season up. But at the moment,
we meant to do something over the international break.
We did.
I think we both needed a bit of a recharge. So.
We did need a recharge. I was a bit unwell for the first week, but we will get back in touch with them and try and get them closer to us in the Apprentice League. As well. Let's talk about the Green Arrow charity, as to end on. As do you want to say a bit more about this and what we're doing?
Yep. So as we started at the start of the season, every time we get a green arrow, Mark and I are donating £5 each to this charity, which feeds starving people across the globe. The update is I think we're about 460 mils. So all the people that have contributed and are getting involved in that, thank you very much. If you are interested in getting involved, then download the Share the Meal app, find the FPL challenge, and you can donate from as little as 60p for every green arrow you get, and you'll be doing something nice for the world.
Absolutely. And I haven't got a slide for this, but it's the Football Content Awards tomorrow night, Andy, and you're nominated for Best Video, as are we. We're also nominated for Best Podcast. You're not going to make it, though, to pick up the award, are you, if you win it?
No, I've already been to London once this month. That's enough for me.
Fair enough. As we're going, I'm hopefully going to get the pass to go, but you're definitely going to be there. Hopefully we get something, don't we? It'd be nice, wouldn't it, for the stuff that we put in? And we've only got Andy on to kind of boost our last minute chances basically on that. But yeah, we're looking forward to going down to London for the awards.
Yeah, kind of wish we'd actually pushed it a bit more.
We didn't really push it. We didn't really push it. But you never know.
We were so blasé about it. Now it's tomorrow. I'm like, I really want to win this now.
We don't care about trinkets and awards, do we? And now, like, as you texted me the other day, going, I really want to win this now. Really want,
No, we're really humble. We don't need recognition.
No, we don't. What we do need is subs and likes, right? As
we do, yes. Subs and likes. Andy, you can do our subs and likes this week if you like. You're
an
a
expert,
master of these.
a bit of an expert, Andy.
I always like watching Az do it. It's always so awkward. Like, he doesn't really want to say it. But
Awkward?
he has to say it.
How dare you?
That is... Come on my podcast, slate my like and sub smashing.
It's like you don't really want to say it.
We have got 2,300 in the live audience at the moment. If all those liked us, we would be up the algo. You know all about the algo, Andy.
Show me how it's done.
Exactly.
Go on then, do it.
There's enough people here to get to 1,000 likes. Just hit that like button.
Go on then, let's see the natural.
That's it.
It's done. It's done.
Rubbish.
Andy,
Trust me, you watch that number fly up.
How do you get 240,000 subscribers? Have you got any tips for us? We're just over what? 20.5, which we're really pleased with, but we're dwarfed by your big numbers. How did we do it? We're obviously doing something wrong. What's going on?
He doesn't.
Got to do more videos, haven't you?
Do more videos. We've got to work harder, right? That's it. The work ethic that Andy's got is ridiculous, and we're just part-time pizzas.
Yeah, I know. I got to give him credit. You know, I don't like him very much, but he's very good at film.
And he's beating me again for the third season running. I'm going to have to look into that. I'm not sure I agree with that, but I will look into that. Oh, what's happened there?
Oh, hello.
Oh, we're off.
Oh, playing some music. I didn't mean to do that. Have I started the credits by accident?
Are we off or are we...
No, we're not off. I didn't mean to press that. Oh, it's technical problems. Hold on a minute. We'll just let that die out.
Mark,
there we go,
Mark,
right at the end.
Are you all right tonight?
I'm totally fine. I've had a couple of Brewdogs. That was it. I don't know why the music played there. I didn't press any buttons or anything. Anyway, as I was saying, thanks very much, Andy, for joining us tonight. It's been a treat, hasn't it, Az?
A treat.
Yes. Andy's been brilliant, as we expected.
It's been great. It's been we've wanted to get him on for ages, and yeah, I miss the Scoutcast days. The Scoutcast days were great with the three of us, and Joe and you know, David and Luke and Granville and all those guys. Yeah, it's the stuff that got me into doing this kind of content. So it's always nice to catch up with Andy.
And Andy, you must remember that wildcard one we did. You were in it with Az, and when Joe ripped me apart for Trent.
Yeah.
Classic.
Andy and I were just sat there like, ooh.
Like someone said, is it going to be another one of those? I'm like, we'll never do that again. Like Joe's performance in that episode was just incredible.
Yeah, you can't script that.
No.
It just doesn't know how it works.
That was just pure passion. And then my reaction, I was so angry. And yet at the end of the show, it was all fine again. But it was just brilliant.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
It's so funny how good, like how ridiculously good Trent is now as well.
Well, I obviously spotted it 4 years.
Was it Terence Trent Derby?
Yeah. But this is like 4 or 5 years ago, and he came.
Yeah,
and I think it was Burnley at home, and I think he created 7 chances but blanked, and I was like, oh, if only I could have proved Joe wrong, but it didn't happen. But brilliant episode, and we should link it again on Twitter for those who've not seen that, because I don't think we'll ever do a wildcard show like that again in BlackBox future, but we'll try. But Az's wildcard simply wasn't bad enough. I think it was all right, Az. I think you'll do all right.
Ooh, very high praise from you, Mark. Thank you.
Yeah, even though you got Mope. Right, I will play the credits now, and hopefully it'll work. It's a good night for me.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.